Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 538th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I am the brave Trasnell, and I'm joined by...
I'm boosted gold, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Elseworld, Dylan Muss.
I'm the wasn't hired, not fired, Taylor Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. You know, usually, as we've said before, we announce the town hall and whatnot that the GV cast, like we still cover casts, or we still cover news and trailers and all that good jazz, but we're usually a little more laid back. We just kick the bucket around for a little bit, shoot the shit and stuff like that. That's why you go to originals. Kirkland looks like, we don't do that, but we
Kick
do
the bucket.
do that. Usually.
That's like you're dying,
Kick the
isn't
bucket.
it? I feel like
I'm
I've never
like,
heard that term. In a
well,
different
you
phrase
just
than
did
that.
now, but today we got lots to talk about. There's just, it's a day that we didn't know till a month ago, and delivered it, not who knows, but we got a lot of things to talk about. So we're going to jump right into it. Taylor, quickly, where can they find us all?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with the internet connection. The search bar GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Yes, everything the man said down below, everything the man said is down below. I thought you were putting your hand up there, Dylan. I was like, what is he revealing? It's like a beginning of host. Go watch the video versions. But yes, go down below to find everything we do, the audio, the video, our podcast network, everything, the Discord, our separate feeds, and most importantly, head over to Patreon to join us there. I think a couple of new people have joined the past couple days, so big thank you to that. We hope you're enjoying the content. This weekend, we got our next mass record day, so you're going to be getting episode 3 of the X-Men Retrospective, which is the first half of season 2, so you got that coming. You got John Wick 3, Parabellum, and Evil Dead 1. So I know S-Bubs, you're going to be looking forward to that. And a big thank you to our Patreon producers, April Baron, Aaron, I did it again.
Mixed the names
April of Darkness, Aaron Brain, and Joshua Wright for hitting us at that top tier and being producer and voting and picking on a lot of things. Everyone check out the Golden Geeks episode. It's not going to be live yet. In about a week and a half or so, you'll be starting to vote and everything like that. There's 10 categories, so it's going to be a little bit of a process. But yeah, everything we do there goes back into the podcast. We really appreciate what you do for us there. And if you can just listen, we really appreciate you as well, because the more you download, the more you listen, the more you subscribe, the more patrons we have, the more content we can do for each and every one of you. Me and Kirkland will be reviewing Knock at the Cabin this week. And then next week, we got our movie draft. There'll be an Ant-Man predictions, Weekly Geek. You know, Kirkland and Dylan got bumped twice, but you guys I got a whole topic list now, so you got a bunch of stuff going on. Side quest. What's happening next? I'm on Side Quest next week, Dylan. We're going to be talking about some Midnight Suns. Oh my God.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. But let's get down to the nitty gritty. So we got lots of things to talk about. James Gunn at the beginning of, I guess last year, you could say, was like at the beginning of the year, end of January, you'll hear about this slate. You hear about the first part of the slate, and they waited to the very last day to put it out there. Press went there yesterday. They got their first look at it, and then it was embargoed today till 9 a.m. And then they unveiled 10 projects, which, you know, James Gunn, smart on him to be like, oh, it's just going to be 3 or 4 things. Always under-deliver. That's the best thing to do with your audience. Always under-deliver, and good job. So they put this out here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about just our overall thoughts of how they did it, just an idea of what they've put out there. Then we're going to go one by one of the projects, and then we're going to talk about some news and stuff like that. Like the Elseworld, there have been some interviews about, as Taylor's name is, wasn't hired, not fired sort of deal. Like there's some comments, because that's the good thing / bad thing is all the press was embargoed at 9 a.m. So like just like a bunch of articles just dropped at the same time that are like pretty much the same answers and questions, but there's always a variation. So Tim, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Hired wasn't not fired. You know, what did you think of? Obviously, lots of, like, we weren't here since the beginning of it. We missed Man of Steel, but we got BVS, and that was the kickoff of, you know, the rocky road that DC got on. Ever since then, they've been trying to find their way, and the hope is now that Peter Safran and James Gunn will be leading the way. And obviously, we got this slate of films this year, and as we'll talk about, their real slate doesn't start till about 2 more years. But what do you think of this as like their first effort forward, being like, hey, this is what we're going to be offering you for our Chapter 1, as they're calling it. Gods and Monsters is what they're calling Chapter 1.
The famous Ubisoft game that got renamed and all that mess. That's immediately what I thought of. Like, ooh.
So Taylor Field, what are your first initial thoughts before we go break down all these projects?
A little bit of curiosity, actually, because I felt like even hearing the name like Gods and Monsters, and then just kind of like looking at like who they were tapping into for certain things and like what they might be doing down the road, and specifically like one character getting a feature film, it makes me wonder, if DC is going to be not necessarily beating Marvel to the punch. I feel like there's still a little bit of rivalry here, but I feel like we all know Marvel is dabbling down the road of monsters and getting into this kind of era.
Mhm.
And I feel like, well, it's interesting that DC is now trying to kind of shoehorn this in here. And I like some of the things in the articles, like, hey, we're going to be using these mainline characters you're familiar with, your Superman, your Batman, to kind of get you connected with other characters that you are otherwise not familiar with. I think that's great. But I do wonder if, like, what is the goal?
No,
what is the
Sam,
goal
he's
here?
gonna be Two-Face, right, Taylor, in this next
Two-Face,
remake?
yeah, that's my prediction. But that being said, there's a few things that I'm very excited for. A few other things I'm not going to say I'm not excited for. I just don't know and I'm not familiar with it, so I don't have any real position on it. But I think that doing a step in this direction is smart. And I was kind of memeing about certain like things, but then all of a sudden, like when you posted something in regards to this, Travis, then it kind of goes in hand with my nickname tonight, and I thought, like, holy smokes, like it's definitely interesting why they are choosing to do certain things, but like I definitely I have faith in what they're going to be doing and moving forward. I think that they've picked these projects for specific reasons, and yeah, I had a question that formulated in my mind when I was thinking of this, like, because my excitement is definitely there, but to a certain degree. But let's say like you're walking down the street, Travis, and you bump into a random person, not like a Bob Iger or anything like that, a random person, and you just they look at you and they say, "Why should I be excited for having seen this Slate?" What would you pitch to them?
So you're talking about just any schmojo who's like a GA?
Random, yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, now you're kind of making me go next. But I think what I like about the slate is already, because I didn't think they'd go this right. You can listen to Travis told you about weeks ago. I said they got Superman, and I thought they'd do a lot of little characters. I think for the general audience already, it's like you've confirmed you're getting a new Superman movie and you're getting an additional Batman movie. So it's like that to me is like the mulligan of like the characters we're doing again, and we're going to be doing a different versions, which we'll talk about, of like things that have hopefully never been done before Superman. Batman having a son that's never been done before in live action and stuff. So it's like that'll be your baseline to get you in the universe. And then the other stuff is Green Lanterns. People know what Green Lantern is. I think that's smart. And then the other stuff is I just have to pitch of like, you didn't know who Guardians of the Galaxy was, right? And that's not just because James Gunn. It's just like the Authority. I've not read a single thing of the Authority. You can have my DC fan card here. I didn't hear. I think I've heard like a mention of them before. And when I was like the Authority, because I had a big roll these past 2 days if I was comparing lists with certain people that I was getting some information, and then luckily I got the list sent to me at 5:15 this morning, and I was like, the Authority. I was like, what the fuck is this? And but so I think that's the way you pitch it, is if you're like the classic DC stuff, they got you covered, and if you want some new stuff, that's also coming as well. And I think variety. I think stuff like a Swamp Thing, it's good to have, we have a horror thing in there, which Marvel didn't really get to until like around now, right? I'd say WandaVision was the first time they got to like scary stuff, and that took them 10 years, where it's different because DC's been around long. But I'm saying in this iteration, I think it's good that they have variety, but they have your mainline Batman, Superman to get you in the door. And then I think the lead little things, like we'll talk about being Green Lantern, they say in the press release, like, this is going to have to do a big deal with the story that we're telling for chapter 1. So I think that's it. You got your main characters, and then you got some new ones. That's my pitch.
What this, Travis?
How do you explain the DCU slate to an 80 for Brady audience member? I would just be like, you remember Christopher Reeve's Superman? They're doing another Superman. They go, oh yes, I like Superman. But I don't know who that audience is for. I'm excited to see if that movie bombs or not. But yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. So your final thoughts there, Taylor? Obviously, there'll be more, but...
Oh, there'll be more.
Okay.
I'm excited
Makes
to hear
you
it.
wait.
Yeah. Patser, you look like you're looking here. I saw you. You're like,
I'm ready to jump in. Yeah. I mean, busy day at school today. I knew the big news was coming out. I wasn't too active on the Discords or anything, other than just got at lunch, clicked on the first thing for the slate, and I just see the Creature Commandos list, and I'm like, man, they are
Kirklin's like,
announcing
"I'm
some. Well, it wasn't even that. It was just like, man, like this is like deep cut. I feel like I was expecting like the first thing to be reading, I don't know, something Superman, which it is in there, or some more Batman stuff.
It
whatever it might
technically,
be.
when you watch the video, yeah, it was like the first thing.
Creature
they talk,
Commandos first, and that was like all the time I had, in that moment to just check that article quick. I was like, okay, I'm excited to look into this later. And like I should say this, that like I feel like I'm not actually like a DC guy. I do like DC characters in there, but it's basically just like the big Mount Rushmore classics. You got your Superman, the Batman, Wonder Woman. I feel like the list doesn't go too deep compared to that. So coming into the watching the video of James Gunn, I really was just like, okay, let's like Taylor was saying, like get me excited for this. DC's been in the crapper for a little while. I don't think it's too harsh to say.
in the crapper. I think that is like
compared to some other big studios out there.
compared to the one studio that's the biggest studio in the world. Like, come on now. The fucking Joker was a radar movie, made $1 billion. Batman just almost made like 800 million.
Good
Like
arguments.
Aquaman made $1 billion.
That's all
Like,
the Elseworld, so it doesn't count.
Aquaman made $1 billion. That's what I mean. Like, I know it's to Marvel, but take Marvel out of the equation. I think they're doing all right. They're doing good.
No, yeah,
I'd like to have that.
They're doing all right. Maybe I was hyperbolizing a little bit there, but I mean, so yeah, like coming into it, it's like, okay, like do something for me here, Gunn. And I have liked his usage on Twitter lately, just being very just back and forth with the classic Twitter users or whoever wants to interface with him. Like he just seems like a more approachable person to be in like that CEO role. And watching this video, again, maybe it is just all of a show or whatnot, but I was like entertained watching this. Like he really just seemed like he was someone just talking to a fan, or like, I don't know, just a general viewer of.
There's a lot of quick cuts. Like I feel like he said a lot of things he wasn't supposed to. Like, okay,
that's
cut,
fair. Yeah,
cut.
Superman movie because we fucking ousted Henry Cavill, that bitch.
They're like,
I hate
"Can't
the
say that."
Snyderverse. Fuck Zack Snyder.
Just keeps going off the cuff
Yeah.
there. But I mean, yeah, so like all in all, I really just enjoyed his little Slate reveal there. And like, like I was expecting some Lantern stuff for sure, or some comments about some other things on here, whether it was Wonder Woman or anything like that. But I must say, I feel like the things that I'm the most hyped for are like the Creature Commandos. Like after reading about them or something, it's like, man, I've never heard about this at all, but this is something very different from what I'm used to seeing from DC, Marvel, like anything in the comic book movie realms right now. So yeah, that definitely has me excited for sure. I'm definitely excited to unpack specifically these projects with you guys here. But yeah, something like Swamp Thing, even the Supergirl project, like that has me so intrigued. I feel like that's a character that it's another super person or whatnot, but like just the way that they describe her story origin and how that's going to play out. Yeah, the pitch, exactly. So yeah, I'm ready to become a DC person if all of this hits. So I think that's a fun statement for sure. And I like the explanation too of splitting the Elseworld projects with this new cinematic combined universe that they're doing here. So yeah, all in all, I big like 2 thumbs up for me on this Slate reveal here. Funny it comes on the last day of the month, but better late than never.
Of course. As Bub shouting about back to a multiverse, we could have had Big Dan Lin possessed him during the video.
I haven't heard that name in a few months.
Big Dan Lin. That's what
Everyone
happens
was
when you
so
don't get the
hyped
job
on him,
done,
and now they don't care at all. Poor guy.
I wish he did get the job just so he could keep calling a guy Big Dan Lin, But when I think he's producing Little Mermaid or Hercules or something come out for Disney, so we'll talk about him again.
You don't even know what he's producing. That just goes to show.
But you know what's gonna be
He's just some
fun?
random guy. To
But you know
everyone.
what's gonna be fun for us though? The next time we see a movie he does produce and it says produced by, we're gonna be like, oh, Big Dan
We're gonna
Lin.
pop off in our chair in the movie theater.
Yeah. So Dylan Musk, I know famously, so you were here with us for obviously, well, you missed a lot of the first DC reviews, but I remember eventually like you enjoyed the Batman and then you're kind of, I'm done with the DC stuff. Nothing really drew you in, but now we're,
I gave it a fair shot. I
No, you
watched
did,
the
yeah.
BVS's,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Suicide Squads of the world.
I think you watched Up at the Birds of Prey, which you enjoy, but still you're like, okay, but now we're in a state where we'll talk about like the rebootness of it, but they're trying to pitch us, hey, 2025, new chapter, literally chapter 1 of the DCU. Are you excited by this? Is this a book you wanna split open?
Yeah, I mean, on the personal side of it, I'm not too hyped off what we got here, and I think part of it is, as you guys have mentioned, like some of these are just real deep cut things, and I don't really know anything about them. Like reading little blurbs or just what are these things about? A couple of projects, as Kirklin mentioned, have me intrigued. I'm kind of curious about them, but yeah, I think overall for me, it seems like it's still gonna be a big mess. That's kind of my takeaway from today is even looking at, you mentioned like, okay, 2025 is when this thing is kicking off, but like announcing this today and then it's like, okay, well, we have a few more projects still in this universe and then that's going to end and then we're going to start our new universe. But then there's still also this kind of symmetrical universe where there's a different Batman and there's these Joker movies and this Penguin show and like all this stuff. And I at the end of the day, none of that really matters if they're making good movies and good TV shows. No one really cares. If people know, I'm sure a lot of people watch Peacemaker because they heard a lot of people praising it, and they don't even know that like Suicide Squad is a movie that they should have checked out beforehand, right? So at the end of the day, all that matters is that they're producing good content and they're getting good people attached to these projects. From what I read through, everything that they did have like directors or writers for, it seemed like pretty good talent that they had there. So that's a good sign, and even looks like James Gunn might be directing one of these movies too. So obviously that's a great sign as well. So yeah, that's kind of at the end of the day all that matters. But I think looking at the slate here, I don't see any cohesion between this, and I think it will still be a pretty big mess. Just on like a personal thing for me, I think I was more today going into this more looking forward to live action movies. That's kind of what I really wanted to see, and obviously they showed off a few of those, but there's also a lot of TV shows and there's even some animated stuff, and like I don't personally think I'll be checking out any of those things. And so once again, leading into it of okay, when we get like a team up thing or a crossover event, like how much of that is kind of required reading versus not. I'm curious to see how they break that down, because that's the thing, like they're starting off this thing with a bang. Like this is part one of the equivalent of phase one, as far as I understand it. And it's already 10 projects, 5 movies, 5 shows, a mix of animated and live action. Like it's a lot going on, and I'm curious to see what their grand plan is with it, or if this first phase is almost like, let's try a bunch of things, see what works, see what doesn't, see what the audience goes for, and then we'll kind of gauge it from there and adjust. But I'm very curious to see, I guess, the first projects that we get, even if it's going to be a couple years away here.
Yeah, well, there's one thing like I think I put in the notes, but maybe I didn't. That they talked about. So this is chapter 1. There's 10 projects. They've said this is half, so there's still another 10 projects to go. Their idea is to do 2 shows a year, 2 movies a year. I don't know if that means they count like does Creature Commandos count as a show, like, or is that just live action shows? Because
I'm guessing that just means like not the Penguin show. Like that's not included in that total.
Yeah,
it's just their current Gods and Monsters universe, I guess you could call it for now.
So I feel like as like a consumption, that's not as bad, because I feel like there's tons of people that will skip the Creature show, and it won't, like they'll say, oh, we had 2 shows this year, but really people just check out the Lantern show, right? Because that might be too weird or they don't care about it. And I think that's like a good barometer. I think 2 movie shows, like that's like a perfect amount to start off with. Like MCU had to work up to get to 3 movies, and then even the times where they do 4, sometimes like, okay, maybe you guys are pushing. So I think 2 is great for now, and they've said that right now they have chapter 1 to now. Of course, this has to all go well, right? Superman could come out in 2025 and just bomb, and everyone hates it, and then like plans over, right? Same thing as the Snyderverse, same thing as the Monster Universe. Like all these people have had these ideas for these universes, but if all goes well, they've said that they got planned out to chapter 2, and that would be like their chapter 1 and chapter 2 are like their, what people are kind of saying, like their Infinity Saga. That would be their first story arc as the DCU, and even then that's bold because they're playing an 8 to 10 year plan, but they're both only signed for 4 years, so like it's a bold thing to say, like that's the plan, and hopefully it work. And honestly, I just hope it does, so we can. Sorry,
is that 4 years today or as of 2025 when the first project comes out?
No, I think it's 4 years from November so they got to 2026 November.
Okay, that's not a lot of time.
But those movies, you gotta think about it though. Like lots of their movies that they would be filmed, like stuff would be coming out after them. So let's say even if James Gunn left DC in 2026, there'd likely be a movie in 2027 or 28 coming out. Just like with Aquaman and Flash now, right? Where it's like other regimes made those movies and they're not there and stuff like that. So, and I think at that point, I think it is good, because I think you'd know if it's going well, because at least it's like you'd have at that point 4 movies under Gunn and Safran's belt to say, okay, this is what they've done so far. This is the reception. And I guess the shows, right? So at that point, you would have maybe 8 projects altogether out. So almost all the slate could be out that we've seen today. And I think that's hopefully a good barometer of do we want to continue with them or not. And I just wanted to work so we can just not every 2 years have someone new in charge, and then it's like, oh, we're doing this, whether it's Snyder, whether it's Johns, whether it's Hamada, whoever, like all the people, like even when Weed was in there for a bit, like all the people, like we've talked about this before, Iger and company, just because Thor Dark World kind of disappointed, they didn't like kick Feige to the curb and be like, well, big trouble now. Like even if there's a movie that doesn't review well or bombs, just like stick to it a little bit. Don't just hit the eject button like right away and be like, oh, that's it, Gunn and Safran screwed up. And I think to your point, Dylan, and Kirklin brought up too, that's my biggest win for it. Well, so my second biggest win. I got another Batman film. We're going to talk about that. But my second biggest win is that they keep stressing this Elseworlds thing. And I think that is really smart because for years we talking about that. And that's what I talked about Joker 2. And I remember Joker 2 happened and Todd Phillips was like, hey, we should do that. And Warner Bros. That time was like, no, we don't really want to do that. And it's like, I think that's so smart too, if they can make a logo, a brand, so anyone can know, hey, I don't have to watch these, or I could watch these completely by themselves. If I don't like the DCU stuff, I could see this Batman movie and there's a Superman movie too. Like I could see these movies just by themselves, and you still get your cut for DC. And that's what I like is people that might not like the DCU, they're not shackled to, oh, I have to. This is my only Batman now. That's it. Like that's the way it is in the MCU. I want them to change that. Where it's like, I'd love if they just said, yeah, we're just gonna do a random Captain America movie. It has nothing to do with anything, but they won't because they're very connective. So that's one of my biggest wins today, that they said we're going to stress what is in our universe and what's not. And I think you're right, Dylan, where it is difficult, like even with the reboots and the movies this year. I think they're doing a lot of tiptoeing because they don't want to just say, hey, none of these movies matter next year, don't go see them. You know, like they have to find a way to like, because they still want money. They still want those to do successful, because if those do well, that just is better bang for their buck when their movies come along, like for budgets and marketing. So it's strange how they have to say this and like what is and what isn't. But I'm hoping, because my biggest complaint is in that video, he's like, oh, okay, so you got Shazam. It's kind of by itself off there, and, you know, we'll see what happens there. And then you got Flash that resets the universe. And then you got Blue Beetle, and you got Aquaman that leads right into the next story we're telling. But then in that same video, James Gunn was like, the first chapter of the DCU starts 2025. So it's like, what's the deal with these films? And that's where I just honestly do think it's just, I will love to hear his response when these films are out, because it literally might just be, hey, don't shit on these films yet, and they might have nothing to do. But they talk about Aquaman 3's happening, and Momoa is clearly around. Taylor, you got to finger up.
Regarding the Elseworlds project, one of the articles I was reading is just James Gunn talking about this. I really liked how he said it, because he was talking about like the Arrowverse, DCEU, and then the Justice League, the Whedon version, all that stuff, and then there's Superman, Lois, so forth. Then when they came into Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and he's and I quote how he criticizes, they were just giving away IP like they were party favors to any creators that smiled to them. I really like that statement because I feel like it's generally true. While I love the notion of DC branching off and doing all these different things and getting into their Elseworlds environment, doing crazy characters, it's much better when it all is cohesive. And like to James Gunn's point now, when he's doing and tackling all of these different crazy kooky characters and storylines, but having them cohesive, while there is still the Elseworld stuff, I'm assuming some of that Elseworld stuff might intertwine with other Elseworlds content, but for the most part, we don't have to really like pay mind to that. We can watch a movie that's Elseworlds and enjoy it, or a show and enjoy it for what it is. So
yeah, and like piggybacking off of what
Pig
you
in
just
your
said there
back.
Pig in your back there, Taylor. What I really loved about the Elseworlds thing is like it doesn't really put them in a box with the DCU stuff, where like James Gunn even mentioned like connecting the universe for the animated live action video games, which like that edition just kind of, I don't know, surprised me. It sounds interesting just having a crossover. I guess they're getting that with like Jedi Fallen Order and all that stuff now. So
Star Wars
it's not
tries
too abnormal.
it. It's
Star Wars tries it.
it has
but
its pros and cons, and I don't know if I love that idea, but it's like
Well, like
good luck,
that's the thing
James.
though, is that like because they have Elseworlds, it's not like they have to have these tenets that like every project has to some way like tie in with Martha, you know, talk to this person 1987, they got to remember that, otherwise we're out of canon, it just ruins everything. Like it just gives them the freedom to do something.
Did you play the game
like
to
Joker.
see this movie, Mom? Did you play the Flash game? Because you had to play that before you saw this movie.
I
that
hope
gonna be
they
a
don't
thing
go
for
that
every?
extreme. Yeah.
Is that gonna be a thing for every DC game that gets announced in the next few years? That they're gonna be like in this DC Elseworlds project? Like, are they
I
gonna
think
have
so.
to
Yep.
tie it in like that?
Well, I think they're smart if they. I think that's good because like if they do, let's say for some reasons it wouldn't happen, but like an Arkham Asylum 4, clearly that would be in an Elseworlds, right? Because that's not going to be connected to this DCU Batman. So I think it's kind of like the way we meme where at when we get the Xbox press conference every year, and it's always like the Xbox exclusive and Xbox like like Games Pass exclusive, like whatever they always use to like really specify like what this game is, or like first exclusive new look, and it's like okay, I think they will do that where anytime there's some reveal, and that's why I hope there's a logo. You'll have a DCU logo and you'll have an Elseworlds logo, even if it's DC Elseworlds, just so you know, hey, you could play this Batman game and it has nothing to do with what's happening. But if you want to play like let's say, I don't know, they make a movie about this Supergirl and it's like, oh, it ties into the movies for fun. And again, I don't think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be like Star Wars where there's little mentions, and I hope they keep it right because Star Wars
Don't
starts to
kill off their main characters, like kill off Bruce Wayne in the game.
It's like a
Oh,
player
Bruce,
choice.
oh,
too.
didn't
They
you
make two
play
different
Batman
movies
v
that
Superman? Yeah. Didn't you play Batman Kills the Justice League? They killed him. Yeah, so I think they have to do that. They have to be smart with this Elseworld thing, and they even said in these interviews that like there's not like there's gonna be a bunch, but there will be some, but they're gonna be cautious with them. You know, like I think they're gonna like, and I do think not the only reason, but I think Reeves gets to do his thing is just because he already was under contract. The Batman did well. If there's a universe where the Batman didn't come out, I don't think there would be an Elseworlds Batman right now. I think Gunn would be like, we're gonna do our like separate Batman thing, but it's already going, and it's hard to tell your boss, be like, yeah, you know that movie that everyone really likes and made $800 million? We're gonna scrap that and like do our own thing. It's like, yeah, I guess, but also they signed Matt Reeves to a first look deal, so I don't think so.
Can someone remind me what the Superman and Lois project is about?
It's just a TV show on CW.
TV
So,
show. Okay.
so in that like what Taylor's talking about, like that Arrowverse, where it was like the TV shows like Arrow, Flash, and stuff. He was in that thing, and he said that like, oh, it'll probably go on for like another season or two, which is like perfect timing because it'll end like right before. But everyone thought because they've canceled almost every DC TV show that was existent before, and that's gonna be like the only one. Like last week they just canceled 2 more, so that's gonna be like the only live action DC show that is like sticking around for a while. So other than everything else is cut, you know. So anything else?
Don't mind me.
What the hell are you doing there?
I knew something was wrong this whole time. Like I'm really enlarged in this. Like, so I gotta shrink it down.
Oh, let me look at my overall notes. Anything on the overall? Did you guys like the Kirklin? Did Taylor Kern? Did you like the idea? Or sorry, Taylor Dunn. Did you like the idea of like
I sure did, Travis.
of the video of that sort of way? Is like just a quick 6-minute like, hey, watch this explainer to see what's going on, or do you need more pomp and circumstance in the future? Was a press release just fine? Like, what do you feel about like a video drop?
I'm gonna be honest. I read a bunch of things. I did not actually watch the video.
There you go.
I didn't see the format of it. But I mean, if it's only 6 minutes, that sounds like pretty cool. Like it's just an easier thing to share around for them as well on the social media. I'm sure like that, and people can clip things and whatnot. So seems like it's a good idea to do that, because I think that's one of the things that I don't like about the way Marvel does things. Is it feels like there's like a wall between us, the fans, and then them at the press conference, and we're getting like the secondhand information. So that feels like more of a customer facing kind of thing, almost in a way where they can talk directly to the audience. And I think that's kind of better than what Marvel does in a lot of ways. So I'm all for it.
And it makes sense with what Gunn does, right? He's always answering people on Twitter and saying he'll deny scoops or stuff. That's why the scoopers I don't think they hate James Gunn, but I think they're pretty disappointed because
he's not hiding behind some hat like Kevin Feige. He's out in front.
Yeah. What about you, Taylor? Or did you not watch it either?
No, I watched it. I mean, if you only got 6 minutes to please, then you gotta make sure you just blow their socks off.
Did they blow
Did
him
he
off?
do it?
Did they blow it?
My socks came off. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh,
I don't know what it is. I've heard James Gunn talk so many interviews and everything. Every time I like start a video like this, it's just his voice. It's not what I'm expecting like it to come out of him. You know, it's not a bad voice or anything like that, but it's just like, is that really what he sounds like?
What do you expect his voice to sound like?
I don't know,
Or
like
was
louder
there
or
like-
something. He seems
Welcome to the
like
new
a pleasant
DCU.
I like Travis's James Gunn he did earlier when he was
but no,
starting the quote. You did like a Halle Berry Storm thing though, where you started with an accent, it just tapered off into your normal talking.
I've
voice.
only heard Mia Goth talk a few times, so it's like it's not certain yet and everything like that. I was just trying to find the actual writing room before we went on to, but yeah, Kirklin, I'm the exact same as you. It's like I remember going to the video, I'm like, okay, I remember James Gunn has like a lower voice than you expect, and then I hear him just like, that's not what he sounds like, but it's like it's him. It's just like weird and everything. But yeah, they also said that they constructed a writer's room. So yeah, to build the overarching story of the new DCU, Gunn brought a team of writers together. Drew Goddard, who did The Martian, he also did Cabin in the Woods. He did the first season of Daredevil as well. Jeremy Slayer, who did Moon Knight, so that's all right. Christina Hodson, who did The Flash and Birds of Prey. Crystal Henry, Watchmen, which is, we'll talk about her in a second. Just that one is a big win because Watchmen, the TV show, was so good. And then writer Tom King, who's obviously one of his comic books, Supergirl one we'll talk about, is getting adapted. So I think that's smart too, that they brought a bunch of people, different voices, and they have majority of them have dipped their toes in comic book stuff, whether it's Marvel or DC, and I think that's really smart and everything like that. So yeah, anything else before we just start going this one by one? Go once, going twice. Okay, so we are going to take our first ad break, and then we'll get into the slate. So we'll be right back. And we are back. So let's get into the first one. We're gonna start where, of course, where I gotta start. I've been itching all day to talk about this, The Brave and the Bold, which I'm very interested as far as if they're gonna keep that title, if it's gonna get hyphenated to Batman Brave and the Bold. But everyone keeps referring to it in interviews in the slate, like in the video, it was listed The Brave and the Bold when they showed everything. Let me just pull up the synopsis here for it. The Brave and the Bold. This is the introduction of the DCU Batman, said Gunn, of Bruce Wayne, and also introduces our favorite Robin, Damian Wayne, a little son of a bitch. This movie will take inspiration from the now classic Batman run written by Grant Morrison that introduced Batman to the son he never knew existed, a murderous teen raised by assassins. It's a very strange father and son, and importantly, it'll feature a Batman not played by Robert Pattinson. Also, they had to get that out there. So just to give you, and I won't give you the whole synopsis because I'm sure they'll do it in the story, but what happens is Talia Ghul one day shows up to Wayne Manor, talks about, hey, you and I had a child, we never let you know, drops off this kid, she's in danger, drops off the kid, he's like a 12, 14-year-old, and Batman, and this is like, and I don't know if they'll do it in the movies, but so he's like, obviously doesn't know how to take this, didn't know he had a child, Damian Wayne sees the Robin, so he wants to go crime fight, and they go crime fighting for a night. It goes great, it's fantastic. He's like, man, I got a Robin, I got a son, this is great. At one point he's like, oh dad, and then he turns around and he looks, and Damian Wayne is holding the head of a criminal, and he's cut it completely off, and he's like, look what I done. They go to Batman, he's like shocked. So that's the thing where his son is raised to be a brutal murderer, and obviously the contrast of Batman, who many times has a no-kill rule. Taylor, I think you're going to enjoy this because the best way I could describe Damian Wayne, not the same way as the Mouth, but you're going to get massive Hit Girl vibes from this character. He's very violent. He's very, he speaks off the cuff. I don't think he's going to be dropping F-bombs and stuff the way Hit Girl did and everything like that. But what do you think about so it's like we talked about this, and this is something I was wrong. I did not think they would do a solo. It's not a solo Batman movie, I guess, technically, but I didn't think they'd do another Batman movie, but they're doing one. They're going to have Robin for the first time in live action. They're introducing his son. It's not going to be Pattinson. How do you take that all for The Brave and the Bold?
Well, first off, coming this far and not having a Robin is bonkers, because that last time we had I mean, yes, you can semi-count in the Nolan verse.
No
Robin,
one
but
counts that. I love the tribute of, you shouldn't use the name Robin, but that's not a Robin.
And then the only other Robin we got was just like the costume, nothing with that, spray paint all over it, nothing with that. So we don't even know
about Chris O'Donnell in the 90s. Where you
that's what I'm going for. That's the last one that we had
since Rubber Lips,
1998.
Yeah. So I mean, shit, man, we're in the 20s right now.
It's almost fall.
So I think that it blows my mind that we've gone through 1, 2, 3 Batmen, and now we're coming up on the fourth one now, and finally we're going to be getting the Robin with this fourth one. It blows my mind it's taking this long. So I think it's a great idea. I really do like Robin. I think he's a super fun character. I love being able to experience him in the Arkham games to a certain degree. So I think that finally them getting him into the feature film back on the big screen is absolutely outstanding. Let's do it. The notion of him being a killer is fantastic. And like you said, like kind of this hit girl vibes and whatnot. I'm really digging this. And I think that you don't even need to have a big bad villain in there. We're so used to having like the Jokers or the Two Faces, all of these characters pop in there. We don't need it. You could leave those signature villains up to Batman in the Patterson universe, and then in this variant, at least for the starting film, I'm totally content just having the dilemma and the drama between Bruce Wayne dealing with his psychopathic killing son. I think there's so much ground that you can cover with that, and I don't necessarily need the son to be the villain or anything along this journey, but just have the drama, have the storyline develop in this, and some you could have, I guess, some unifying factor. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe a villain, maybe it could be a gang or something like that. It could be something obscure.
One of the villains they find this comic book run to, you know the character Man Bat, right?
Oh, he used to scare me. Fuck, when I was a kid.
Hang on, it gets better. So I don't. They'll show this in trailers. I don't think I'm spoiling it. But at one point, Talia Ghul, because her father's gone, they have an army of assassins, but they're all man bats. So they're all like,
shit.
Yeah, so they're assassin man bats.
I had a Man Bat toy, and I asked my parents to get rid of it because it freaked me out too much.
Get rid of that.
Burn and then they kept that clown poster on your wall. And stuff.
You're not taking this down, Taylor.
Yeah, go back to some episode. I think it's in bloopers number 1, our very first bloopers. Talk about Taylor, how he couldn't take down this clown thing and whatnot. So, and then what do you think about it being? Do you think like? Can they still rock like the title Brave and the Bold? Like, you think that they'll go without a like Batman to kind of differentiate from, you got Batman Part 2, which we'll talk about, and then the Brave and the Bold, or do you think that's going to get hyphenated and stuff eventually?
Sorry, what was the release year for this? Did we get a release date?
No
for
date
it?
yet. We got a date for Part 2, but not for
that's 2025 in Part 2. So with this, I imagine it's going to be probably like years after 2025.
I think 2027. I think they're gonna like space them 2 years apart. That's my prediction, so they don't get too like.
And we're getting close. A Part 3, right?
Well, as long as Part 2 doesn't bomb, I would assume so. Yeah,
well, it won't bomb, but
I think that's the plan. Yeah.
Okay, so I think. Yeah, I think you keep the name Brave and the Bold, but I also think that you probably slide in some notion like small, slower case, like a Batman story or a Bruce Wayne, Brave and the Bold. Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, not Batman.
Don't want to sound like a soap opera or anything like that.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I can't remember who we all cast other than Kirklin, who did Oscar Isaac. I feel like we all casted.
I picked John David Washington for Batman.
Yeah, I get. No, I think you're out too, because I think we're gonna get like a 40 to 50-year-old Batman now if he has a son. I think they're gonna go.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Like, how old is he usually in this run? I guess
this is post 40s usually. Yeah, because this is at a point where he's gone through 3 Robins and a Batgirl sidekicks, and this is like a last like this is like a you have a son and stuff. So I think they're gonna go older. I think that helps too, because Pattinson's gonna be in like year 3 in his movie. So I'm really curious to see who they get. I'm just curious too, especially with Gunn being this like, if you're in our universe, you got to voice the games, you got to voice the animated shows. Like, I'm very curious who they get, and I feel like they have to get someone not comedic, but they have to get someone that has like. To me, this will be the way. I don't think The Batman is a family-friendly movie. Not that I think it's like super scary. There's scary stuff, but I just mean like it's not enjoyable. Like, let's get the family together and go watch this movie. I think they'll tone down the killing in this. I think this will not be as serious as The Batman. I think this will be a more adventure action where, Taylor, I know you said about the villains, I think they will go the opposite route, but you're gonna get like in the Batman where you get like these gross, very realistic villains. You're gonna get Mr. Freeze popping off with a fucking freeze bazooka shooting at Batman in this, because then it seems different. Batman's gonna be blue in this, I guarantee you, and I can't fucking wait to finally get a blue Batman, you know?
So you think we get the same, like, you think they would throw a Riddler in there, or you think it should be like
I see what you mean there. Yeah, I think they'll avoid that way. I think you could. I don't. Other than Joker, because he's always inevitable, I think they'll get a Joker, but they'll do him very like pretty, and he'll be the bleached white and everything like that, because they didn't mention anything about Squad or Margot, so I don't know what the deal with that is. But I think other than Joker, yeah, I agree that they could leave Penguin aside and leave Riddler aside. They'll go for Man-Bat, Clayface, like Professor Pig, like all these really weird, like a guy that's turned into a puddle of mud. Like Pattinson's not fighting that. He's not fighting a puddle of mud in his movie. I'm sorry. Hashtag Travis told you. I've fucking been telling people for years, like, no, it's gonna happen. That's a universe. It's comic books. No, he's not. It's all gonna be fucking realistic crime-based stuff. And now we got another Batman. So hashtag Travis told you. You know.
Wait, what's the Travis told you that he's not fighting mud?
Because so every time people like all throughout the Batman, like before and right after, like I was saying, it's gonna be like Nolan's, where it's gonna be a gritty, realistic world. And so many people are like, oh, I don't know. I feel like Matt Reeves. They kept being like, he did Planet of the Apes. It's like that's a whole different franchise that has nothing to do with Batman. And
Which I feel like that is not very bright and colorful and fun anyway. That's
well, no, not the fun. No, just the fact that like Pattinson's not gonna fight like a human bat. Like it's always gonna be like real world stuff. And people, so many people tell me, oh, I think it's gonna happen. It's like, no, it's not happening, and it's definitely not happening now. It's like we'll get to it, but literally, Matt Reeves quoted this article and in capitals put epic crime drama. That's like that tells you everything you need to know about like what they're doing. So Dylan, you know, you love the Batman. The other Batmans you've been, you know, rocky with. Are you excited to see Batman and a sun and maybe a colorful Bat? Are you excited to see a blue Batman? You excited?
I'm
to see...
definitely excited for a blue Batman. I think my point was going to be pretty much what you said, Travis. I feel like the comedic route could be a good way to go with this thing, just to differentiate the tone from the other Batman, especially what you were talking about there of the release dates of these things, Taylor. Like, just where do you fit these things next to each other? I feel like it is a good idea to go different routes. They could even keep the name if they want. And I feel like the name to me, I don't know. There's like something about it that's like a bit goofy. I don't know.
Yes,
I already
100%.
don't take it as seriously just based off the name. And I feel like when we get a poster or something, like I feel like that could go well with it too. And yeah, like that idea that what you were talking about, like that could be done in a very dark way, but it also could be done in a more comedic, kind of lighthearted way.
Yeah.
And
Like a Taika Waititi director way.
I don't want
Let's
that.
not go that far. Let's not go that far. Wow.
Kirklin-
He didn't like your idea.
No, he was offended by that.
He's like Taika Waititi directs Batman. He's gone.
You shocked me with the Taika.
You nervous clicked on your exit the room button.
I've always said this, so as though the only person, maybe I'm misspeaking, but I think the only other person to see Batman 66 related stuff is Dylan Musk. And I've always said I want them at some point in their life to do a Batman 67 with like current day actors. I think Taika would be fucking great at that. Like imagine trying to do like that Bing Bang Boom, but with Taika and the comedy. I don't think we're there yet, but that's an Elseworld I would take one day of like just a full like parody of Batman and stuff. But
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes down to it, I it's hard for me to get excited about this when you're talking about at the earliest we're looking at 4 years from now is when this thing's coming out, and we probably won't get casting for some amount of time. Or actually, that's a question, like just in general for these things, since 2025 is when it's kicking off. How much of the casting do you think they've really planned out for the creation of these projects? Like, do they go into this with Supergirl casting in mind? Maybe not signed yet, but like this is who they're looking at? Or do you think it's more, they're taking it more just like a really zoomed out lens for now?
I think they're taking it step by step. The only reason I'll say is because Gunn, there was a rumor of the guy that I fan cast for Superman, and he said and he could be lying, but he said we haven't even talked to any actors because I don't like to talk to actors till my script is done or nearly done. But he's not going to be writing all these. But I guarantee you, there's going to be, even if there's no script, feelers sent out to people. There is, I guarantee you, a short list of people we would like to approach, and maybe it might be a thing like, hey Dylan, would you like to play Batman? And you say yeah, and okay, in a year or two we're gonna touch back and see if you're still interested in stuff. Because like I said, the whole thing of like, I'd be down, I'm sure many people would be, but what if one actor wants to play Batman, but they're like, yeah, you gotta voice him in 2 games, you gotta voice him in this animated stuff, you gotta be in a Justice League movie, and you're like, I don't know.
Sign on for 10 years.
Well, yeah,
longer
like,
than James Gunn. Exactly,
right? So that's why I'm not trying to say we're gonna get a bad actor. No, I don't think that. I just think we're gonna get somebody that wants to be a franchise guy or gal. Which either way, I don't think they're signing people to a 1 movie thing, you know, unless it's like the MCU where Bale comes in for a villain and that's it. Like that's your route. But I think this Batman is going to be planned to be the new Justice League Batman and team up Batman and stuff like that. So
yeah, my last point on this was I'm very happy that they're likely with this route is they're I mean, of course, you can always flash back to origin story stuff, but it seems like we'd skip right past that. We're right in the middle of this Batman's career, and I'm excited for that. That makes me happy. I don't want to see this origin story again. I don't know. I feel like they can get right into the action on this, and that's an exciting thought.
Yeah, I think I agree. I 100% agree with that one. It's just smart to avoid that and stuff. And yeah, everybody's meme about in the chat. You got to get Pedro Pascal. He's taking care of kid. Even though, memes aside, I would take a Pedro Pascal Batman because I think that guy could do anything. It'd be kind of fun. But Kirklin, apparently, also I suppose fix me. That's why he's the guy in the chair. Epic Crime Saga is what it's called. Epic Crime Saga. Because
is the happy face? That's part of the quote. The big happy face too.
Is it? Did he actually
very
vote the
happy.
happy
According
face?
to SBubs' whatever that thing. Why can't I think of what that's called right now?
Quote?
Smiley face.
Apostrophe.
Emoji?
What is it called?
Emoji. Smiley face emoji.
The quote.
Quotation. What's
Yeah,
that?
the quotation. I don't know why my mind is blank there.
Yeah.
Smiley face.
So Kirkland, no Taika Batman for you, but how
No
you feel
Taika
about
Batman.
How you feel about all this? A new actor playing Batman, son for the first time, Robin.
Yeah.
All this jazz.
This is really, really cool. I obviously know of the dynamic duo Batman and Robin, but I feel like every time I think of Robin, it's that holy quackers Batman, like that super like geeky type Robin. And like I know the what was it called, Titans, like I feel like from what I've heard they did pretty good with with that
the actor's
Robin
good,
character.
the writing's but he's good in it.
But like just the thought of this, like I never knew about this comic book run and like this assassin Robin type character, like it totally just flips in my mind that character like completely 180 from what I would expect him to be. So that's really, really exciting, especially like what Dylan said. It's nice to just jump in when Batman's already gonna just be years into it, and like we're jumping into just his world right now. The blue suit, like man, like so many things just check the boxes that I didn't even think I had on a list of like things that would get me excited for.
Get a bunch of cool like weird gadgets that shouldn't work in real life, like like a shark repellent bat spray and stuff. Like that.
Now you're getting 66.
Oh yeah, like that's what they should do with this. Like he should have like ice bombs and stuff like that. Like let's get nuts,
Let's get nuts. That could be one of his gadgets. Just throws them down. Someone trips
nuts.
on them.
Nuts as bombs.
so yeah, like this is really, really awesome. And like obviously because I have Robert Pattinson's Batman like in the back of my mind, I wasn't really like, oh, I can't wait for the next Batman announcement or something like this. But this is very different from that, and the fact that it's going to be two characters, that just makes it even more exciting for me. And you know who I would fan cast? I pitched him for Superman. If that slips through the cracks, let's get Eric Dane in here as old man.
Your pick of Oscar Isaac could still work. He's in the older range though.
I mean, like I know. I just again, it's just
Eric
like you're talking
Dane,
about like the father-son dynamic. My mind just goes to Eric Dane and Jacob Elordi, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah. Well, I think for Robin, you'll likely get a no name. I think, and you'll get a person of color too, because that's the other fun thing. We're gonna get a new Talia al Ghul, like, cause she's the mom and stuff. And I've always loved that dynamic of he fell in love with the assassin. She's like hid this kid from years just to make him a deadly weapon to use against. Like that's like great soap opera cheesy stuff, right? And everything. And there you go, an update. He did include the smiley face there, Dylan, in the quote. So that was my thing of like, because James Gunn said in one of these interviews, he's like, well, we talked to Matt Reeves. He told us what we were doing with the Penguin Show and Batman. He's like, we just loved it and we're gonna let him keep going. My joke was just like he walked in and just said Epic Crime Saga, and they're like, perfect, and then he left and stuff like that. But and yeah, Lego movie level gadgets. Yeah, let's do that. Let's even get him in the robe with the bat mask and all in the game. That's my pick. It's been a dream pick for too long. I've been through two Batmans now where John Hamm hasn't been cast. So I've just given up on it. But John Hamm is still a great one for me. I've always had Fassbender in there, but now I'm really looking for a Trash Told You. I think I'm gonna find like a top 10 like 45 to 50-year-old actors and just go like, who could it be and what could they do and stuff like that. But we'll see. So. But speaking of Trash Told You, I said this before. The two things I have some problems coming up here with some James Gunn's decisions, and I question them a little bit like that. But I said there's two things I wanted from this new DCU slate. So I wanted the Batman not to be touched, and that's fine. That's the major one thing I wanted, and the Batman sticking where it is. and I want Bat Family stuff. And in this video, he said he's talking about the plot, and he doesn't really say it here. There's another interview. Safran talks about it, but he says like this is the kickoff to the Bat Family, and that's like an aspect we've not seen before, where Batman has 4 Robins. He has Batgirl. He has Batwoman. Like that's the thing. Like Batman early on started as like a loner, solo, lone wolf type of guy, but then through the years he accumulates all these like sidekicks and partnerships and friends and children and stuff like that. And again, that's where I always say, like, people go, oh, another Batman movie. It's just like there's so much stuff that hasn't been shown yet for Batman. Like even Batman having a son, like you haven't seen that stuff. You haven't seen that dynamic. So I think that's a good idea too, because that's the other thing that people kept telling me that, oh yeah, I think Matt Reeves will do a Robin. It's like, I just don't see why he'd do a Robin when he's this young. Like the point of the story is he gets Robin when he's a bit younger and wiser, and his body's a bit more broken down. He needs the help, and it's like to help this kid. So it's just weird. Of like, I get it because Robert Pattinson stared at a kid in the Batman, be like, he's gonna adopt a kid, but like, I just think it was supposed to show the moral of, hey, I lost my parents too. Like not everything's an Easter egg, but again, that's a great differentiator. Color, gadgets, sci-fi, and a sidekick. People will look at both of them and they'll see that they're different. If they're good, the GA won't care. And the good thing for me as a fan, I hopefully like them both. But for other fans, if you don't like one, you hopefully got the other to like. You have a choice. And that's what I hope Marvel does down the line, where stuff like for me, Moon Knight, where I was disappointed in, if I could have an additional Moon Knight, I know I'm being greedy, but I just mean like, that's the great thing. And there's only so few characters you could do this with. My only hang up is, I said this before, and Travis told you, that I still feel like we've never gotten a great Bruce and Dick story of the first Robin. They've always been all right to fine to like decent, but it's almost like the Batman origin, where I feel like they probably feel that you've seen that Robin so many times in so much media, like let's spice it up and change it up a little, and let's do one that hasn't been done. So in a perfect world, jumping to the 4th Robin is kind of like a meh, like we're kind of missing out on a lot of stuff, but I hope that they can give me a lot of lore and a lot of background and make it feel like I've lived in there. And I'm very excited to get a Dick Grayson. I'm hopefully excited to get a Barbara Gordon. And this is the thing I wanted the most from Batman. The second thing was I want the Bat Family, and they literally said the Bat Family. So I'm very happy. Like even Gotham Knights, like me and Taylor, the game's fine, but we said that was the best stuff, was like the interactions with that group around Gotham and figuring everything out. So I hope there's I'm very excited. And yeah, bringing the Nightwing Damon dynamic, because they don't like each other. Because like that's the thing. Batman adopted Dick Grayson as this kid, and he grew up with him, and he looks at him as like a real son, because he's like the perfect, like, oh, I'm a good crime fighter. And Damian just hates him because that's not his blood, but like he kind of likes, he would never say this, but like he kind of likes Dick Grayson a little bit more and stuff. So like there's tons of fun things to do. And again, I'm just excited for like all these projects, for the big ones especially, just casting. We're gonna get more rumors of this and that, and even directing, like who are we going to get to do maybe a bit more of an action, lighthearted Batman film, and there's tons of great people out there, but who is that? So anything on this one in particular?
No, well said. You covered it all.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I'm a pig in shit. I got 2 Batman movies coming out. I'm living the dream right now. Little Travis is happy about that. All in the Game, we did talk about that about 5 minutes ago, so you go back, but I think we're all in agreement there about the villains. And then the other thing is, we just talked about that. The Batman 2, hashtag Travis told you, Maddie hit me up right away. We're talking about this in the Discord, where everyone's talking about what the sequel's gonna be called. Part 2, man. That's what people like nowadays. That's the new rage, is everything's part 2. But yeah, the Batman part 2, nothing's changing. They're doing their own thing. That's coming out October 2025 3rd. So it's funny. The original Batman was supposed to come out in October, I'm pretty sure. And then obviously COVID bumped it a bunch. So that means if everything sticks in 2025, we got Fantastic Four, we get Kang Dynasty, we got that new Superman movie, and we got the Batman movie. My God, that's gonna be I'm just eating right there and stuff like that. So yeah, part 2 is so hot right now. But yeah, everyone, nothing to add. I'm not sure you got anything to add on the Batman. It's confirmed 2 years from now.
It's nice to have it confirmed, and the title,
Bring it
I agree.
on.
Part 2, it's the perfect title for what that piece of cinema.
Now, Travis,
calling for.
that logo in the image you sent, I'm guessing that's like the official logo they showed off today. Like
No,
the blue,
this is all. That's all fan art. I should have said. I should have.
I was going to ask about, because like the black and red was such an iconic part of the visual style of that, and so I'm seeing this blue one here. I'm like, what does this mean? How are we gonna go with this like different version of Gotham in this
Yeah.
different style?
way
But
of
it's
water.
just-
Everyone
yeah.
keeps
no,
no.
don't do it. No,
Everyone's
Gotham
flooded, right?
Everyone's narrative is that Matt Reeves is going to go blue and it's going to be at Christmas. It's a complete fan made up thing. And those are the same people like, I bet Freeze will be the villain. No, it's not going to be the villain. So no, that I should have clarified. Sorry, that is a fake fan art. But it is like a true, like where the setting is and stuff like that.
The fan
So
art credit, man, it looks good.
it does look really good. It looks official. And Superman Mike says maybe we get Under a Red Hood a bit later for flashbacks of Jason as Robin. Yeah, that'd be great. And I think like you could use him as a villain as well, a Robin that dies and then comes back. Like I think I'm trying to think of like the Godfather superhero trilogy. I don't know if I'll go that far, but I'm just trying to think of something recently where it's almost like you have to kind of do a legacy sequel of it, like a Force Awakens or like a Top Gun, where you have to allude to stuff in the past. But the thing is here, like you don't have like a scene to show, like in Top Gun when they show Goose die. I think you have to just kind of like, you got to make it feel like lived in. You got to make it feel like this guy has been around. And like I said, I hope just like the animated show, which we'll get to later this year, we should get a Bat Cave that he has a T-Rex in it. He has a giant coin. Like he should have all these fucking weird ass trophies when you're like, why do you keep this shit? It makes no sense why you're keeping a giant coin in your Bat Cave. But like he paid someone to bring it to Wayne Manor. He's like, yeah, just put it down there in the basement. You know, like I want that. I want that weird guy. So yeah. There we go. So then let's see. Next is, well, I guess we got some details of it, more the plot, but we'll kind of talk about this as like the Superman segment here. So we got our official title, Superman Legacy, the movie featuring the Man of Steel that Gunn is writing and may direct, which is so funny. In one of the like articles, maybe it's this one, they're like, Safran's like, I'm trying to get Gunn to direct it. He's directing it. I think they just don't want to say it, but I think they're trying to prep everybody, which will go, I don't know, with fans very, I don't know how that's going to go. Let's see. Superman is the true kickoff of the duo's DCU plans. It's not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. Yeah. He is a kindness in the world that kindness is old-fashioned. We talk about the release date is July. And then also, because we'll kind of just put them together there, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which I like that title. It's just, there's something about it. Taking cues from the recent Tom King written miniseries, which Tom King was in the writer's room, this movie promises a different take than most would think of Superman's cousin when it comes to mind. We'll see a difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock, a chip off of Krypton, who watched everyone around her die and be killed off in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, then come to Earth. She is so much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to, which that was an origin story where Superman gets, so I don't know what you're going to say to that, but Superman gets sent out. In the comic books, what they did is they meant to send Kara too, but she got knocked off orbit, so she got to Earth later on. So I think they were going to kind of do that, but what were we going to say, Taylor?
Let's say the Supergirl we're used to. What are they implying? Because we've not had a Supergirl yet at all. Like, there's the TV show, but that's the only Supergirl that I'm aware of.
I think they're talking about comic books where she's very lighthearted and very like, you know, not a easygoing, but just more like heroic, where I think this is she's gonna go through some shit and stuff like that. So
Yeah, Taylor, do you ever read books? Come on, go read a comic book.
I'll have to.
All these things with Kang Dynasty and this, maybe 2024 we'll tinker around bringing comic versions, because there's so much stuff. I'm like, oh, I want you guys to read this shit, because there's some good stuff. So look out for that. But I was gonna say, so also they didn't say if, because Sasha Calle is cast as Supergirl in Flash, there's no mention if it would be her. We'll talk about the actors and actresses later, so there could be a version of that, but they're very like all over the place when this comes to actors. But Dylan, what about this super slate? You know, you got Superman and Supergirl movie coming. Does any of this interest you in the synopsis, or is this more of a gotta see for a casting, a trailer, a director to maybe be a bit more on board?
Yeah, I'm very curious about the. I guess Superman. Once again, that is kicking off the thing, right?
Yeah, that's like their Iron Man in a sense.
So,
yeah.
if that is the case, I understand them wanting, without saying it, that they want James Gunn in there as their director, because they can kind of more or less confirm the quality of this thing. Like, this thing will be good to kick off this whole new universe. They want that first thing to land,
and this is the vibe and tone kind of too, right? Like, this is what we kind of want it to be like, you know.
At the same time, though, I feel like that could be a bit risky, because like they're gonna have to put their trust in people, and I don't think that is a great sign that their first project they're like, you know what, actually let me take the let me take the bat on this one, and I'll go crush it. Because then also, like, James Gunn's very good at this stuff. He's worked on. I guess he'll worked on 4 big comic book movies that are all great. The expectations could be very high, and then if like the next movie that comes out in that same year is even just like a standard kind of quality movie, it might even feel like, wow, that was a major step down, like from where that starting point is. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, James Gunn, though. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, so obviously, and Suicide Squad. I enjoyed that as well. So it obviously is a good connection there. I just wonder about the long-term viability of him doing all this work. He's writing multiple projects. He's really in there to some extent, even more so than Feige, who's like not necessarily writing or directing things. He's kind of just overseeing stuff. So I feel like that could just in the long run not be a great move. So we'll see how that goes. But once again, kind of going back to what you said, Travis, of if their contracts only last until 2026 at the moment, you kind of want to fucking nail it in that first year. So I feel like that in a way that could be like, I got to get that contract signed. And a good way to do it is to throw my name on the Superman movie. So those would be my thoughts on that. I think the character and the synopsis, I don't really care, but like at all. This doesn't really do it for me.
It's a pretty blanket synopsis. People are like, "Oh, this is interesting." It's like I feel like Superman's always struggling with his personality, like in a way, you know. So
I mean, even before GeekVerse started, not really big DC guy, and I've tried my hand at a few things, and it's going kind of middling at times. And Superman's just never been a character that I find particularly interesting. So this hook doesn't really do it. The one thing that really excites me is the director on it. So maybe the casting will be great too, and that'll get me in there. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, the Supergirl. This might be my most excited thing of the announcements today. I think this sounds great. I love the hook of this. Once again, I don't think we really know, of course, directors or who's going to play this character or anything like that. But just that hook is brutal, and I really want to see that. Like, that is a hero origin story that sounds like she might be a villain first before she becomes a hero. And, I mean, they even talked about that in some of these articles that they don't want necessarily all these projects to be good versus evil. They want things to be more in that gray area. And I feel like that could be a good opportunity to do something like that. So I'm pretty intrigued by that project in terms of if I'm picking one super project, I'd go with Supergirl, I think.
yeah, and they didn't say it here, but I've heard some rumblings that the Superman one might be more like space-like. So he will be on Earth, but the idea is that he might be more so than other movies, like going around in the outer space and doing stuff and things like that.
Right,
so I think
cool.
that's a good thing. And yeah, the Supergirl thing for me, it's just a big question mark of, like I said, it's if Sasha Calle is in Flash and she kills it and then they just recast, it's the same thing as always. Go like, oh, is that like worth it? But I think that one's gonna be further away that they can kind of, I think with next year, they're waiting on a lot of these ones, see how they do reception. Like even this we'll talk about as they talk about Ezra and how like that door's not closed officially yet, which I go like, I don't know. It's hard for yeah, it's hard for me to see, but like, okay, I get it. They're getting help, so you never know. But with this one, yeah, I like that pitch. I've not read that story. Everyone I've talked to so far really loves that story, so hence why my pitch of Korean Comic Virgins, because I'd even be a virgin on that one. So I've never read that one. I just hear good things. And yeah, it was Superman. I don't think there's any more I need to say than I have because there wasn't much details. I thought the synopsis was like all right. It's just one thing that Dylan brought, which is interesting about like the reception. You also got to think about if that slate stays and you got the Batman, Avengers, and Fantastic Four, and then this. Like, there's a worry that you are the bottom of everyone's ranking list. You know, like that's a top tier list because I feel like Matt Reeves will do well with Batman. Avengers King Dynasty is going to be a huge deal if they pull that off, and hopefully Fantastic Four is great. It's like that's the thing. It has to be. So what
I feel like the hype level, I'd probably put Superman above Fantastic Four still, right? Just because the reception of those movies in the past, even if it's MCU and you get the guy from WandaVision, I still feel like Superman would be maybe a notch above that in terms of just the general audience excitement.
I guess it just depends once we get that F4 cast. If it's a really good, sexy cast of actors, I don't mean looks, like just like 4 actors, like, oh man, I can't wait to see all these people interact. And because I feel like Superman is going to be like a newbie. I think it's going to be someone like we've not heard or we've seen a couple projects, like, oh, I liked him in that. Sean Gunn, fuck yeah, I can't wait for Sean Gunn.
You know who Supergirl is.
Plays them both. They're identical twins, you know.
Yeah, they said no one's gonna play multiple characters except for Sean Gunn, who's gonna play 1,000 different people.
Yeah,
he's still Calendar Man, right?
Yeah, we know you're lying, James, but yeah, no, and I was just trying to think because I think they're spaced out pretty well. I just can't remember when that Avengers date is. I can't remember if that's in November.
For Kang?
Yeah.
That's in May 2025.
Is it? Let's see.
I thought
May-
Fantastic Four was
so it's
November
May.
slot.
So it's May.
Didn't believe you, Taylor. How do you feel?
I was already hence looking up. Calm down.
I'm
No,
putting
so-
divides amongst us.
Dylan, you were right. It was November of 2024 F4, but then they pushed it to
Mm-hmm.
2025. So this is how it would go. It'd go February F4. It would go May Avengers, and then it would go Superman, then Batman. I'm sure there's another MCU project somewhere real in there. So they would
It
actually
wasn't
after.
like Deadpool's before that, or Blade or something. I'm trying to think what the other thing in that year was supposed to be.
No, you might be right. I feel like when is Deadpool 3? Because I'm just trying to say, like, does Superman have a good amount of like space between it? Right now, it's November 2024. So you know what? If Avengers is in May and it's huge and whatever breaking records, you got May, June, and then July, and it says it's the end of July. 3 months, I think that's like a good solid. Like people would be ready for that. I was just thinking about like remember when Infinity War came out and it was like Deadpool. And like Solo, and that was the big thing. Everyone thought that's one of the reasons Solo bombed. It was because it came out in that month of Infinity War, and Infinity War was still making bucks. So you know what?
No other reason why Solo would bomb. So.
Yeah, just
No.
the timing.
No. Let's take our first ad break, and then or second ad break, and we'll hear what Kirklin Patzer has to say. We'll be right back. Kirklin Patzer, you feeling super?
I'm feeling pretty super.
Everyone's super. No one.
Pretty
You said that in
super.
a very unconfident way. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it didn't actually sound
was
super. Super?
I
Question
didn't
mark?
ask myself how super I really felt about the super good news of Superman Legacy. I really like the title.
It's a fun
I'm
title.
I'm curious how different this is gonna feel from the previous Supermans, and I'm not just talking about like the Man of
Fart
Steel.
jokes. James Gunn, there's gonna be like a taser face. I fucking hope not. That's where I'm with people. I don't need a taser face joke in my Superman movie. You know, what do they call you, Brainiac?
Like I love Henry Cavill. His Superman is not like, I don't know. It doesn't make me love the character more than I already did from what's his name, Christopher Reeve's performance from like the 70s.
Reeve.
I feel like Reeve. With
Just
an F.
Reeve.
Reeve.
Christopher
Matt
Reeve.
Reeves.
Christopher Reeve.
Reeve.
I feel like that was just kind of been the peak Superman in my life. Start off hot. I watched it as a youngin, and like all my love for the character of Superman kind of started at that point. And I just through the last two actor swap outs or whatever, like it definitely, I don't want to say like dropped, but it's just been lesser than that initial peak. I am ready for a crazy
To love again.
I'm ready to love again. But I mean, for me, like the biggest hype moment out of this is I think the Supergirl stuff, because that's and which is weird because
No,
I
you're
feel
not
like
wrong. I think
Superman-
we're all in agreement here. I think.
But
so.
like Superman, like he is like my Mount Rushmore for DC characters. It's just like I feel like I kind of seen that story and know what it is. I'm ready to be surprised and blown away, and hopefully that is the case. But I think the Supergirl stuff is, I don't know, like it probably is the peak out of this entire slate for me, because
Wow.
what I'm picturing here is just like a Carol Danvers who's just so much more like rugged and badass, and just like has so many more flaws to her because of like the situation that she's kind of been in. Like she's just going to be a lot more of a broken character, and that's I don't know, I personally think it's a little bit few and far between for those super type characters who are just like invincible, but like what makes them not invincible. And a lot of that starts with the psyche, and I feel like a character that has her type of origin where like she's seen all of Krypton just get destroyed. She thinks that she has to like go like save her cousin, and then she gets there and he's already just like the top dog of Earth. And it's just like what do I do? What is my purpose? Yeah, and like I can't wait to see that journey there. So although like the big name Superman Legacy, like I love that title and everything, but it's just it falls to the wayside for me with the Supergirl news. But I mean, like I really hope it is good, but I think I have a little bit of hesitation because I just see that it unfortunately maybe falling down like a similar pattern the way that they've tackled Superman in the past. And it says it's not an origin story, but I don't know. I feel like with Superman, it's a certain superhero that you gotta kind of hit certain check boxes just to like make it Superman. Like what makes him weak? Kryptonite. Like it's just like these reoccurring things that I think makes him a little bit cookie cutter. But I don't know. I could be completely fooled, and hopefully that is the case.
No, I I think you're right. I think they just need to find like a new threat. I think they got to bench Lex Luthor for a little bit. I'm not saying forever, but bench him for a little bit. Like he has a rogue gallery that we haven't seen before. You got Bizarro and Brainiac and Metallo. So you got all these people. Uh, it's still like, and we'll get to maybe later on when we talk about the reboot stuff. I just still feel, and just because I saw Taylor's name and it has to do with what I'm bringing up, it's just like it's still just strange. Like I'm very interested, and this is the last time I'm gonna bring it up because this is a Slate reveal, and I'll bring it up when we review this movie in 2025. But I still just want to know what in this movie makes it that Henry Cavill cannot be in this movie. Because, and like I said, maybe James Gunn is just lying about, oh, we'll bring these people back, and when we get to the new Slate, it won't be. But Momoa's already been pretty happy, and they've talked about Ezra sticking around. So I just feel like it's gonna be very strange if we get this soft reboot and you got some of these members. Ben's different. Ben doesn't want to do it. That's fine. Cool. Like if you got all these people who want to do it, and then you have Henry, who I feel like wants to and who has been like a huge champion of his character, more so than some of these other actors. And the fact that he's like, I just feel like we still haven't got a good enough reason. I know people are like, oh well, he didn't like this, like your name today. He wasn't fired, and like, okay, technically he wasn't fired, but like he didn't get the job either. Like it's a weird dynamic, and I get what Gunn, and I like Gunn saying like, hey, he was dicked around a lot by, like he literally said that in an interview, like he was dicked around and messed around by previous bosses, and it sucks, and it's a crappy situation, but we just want to cast our Superman. But it's just, I'm very curious if it's a money thing, if it's because he's the face of the Snyderverse. It started with him. It's just, it feels very odd in 5 years if we get a Justice League movie and there's Gal there and Ezra and Aquaman, and you got like it's gonna be weird seeing Gal Gadot with a Superman and Batman that aren't Henry and Ben. Now, do I think the GA will care? No, not really. Same like continuity. If they're good movies, they will go see. But I just find it very strange that it's still, it's not Cavill. And I hope in 2025 I watch it and I go, okay, this makes sense. But Taylor, who wasn't hired, not fired, how do you feel about the Superman and Supergirl news, and Cavill, not fired, just not a part of anything.
Yeah. I mean, the Supergirl stuff I think is great. I really do. I think that this is, again, more Krypton stuff that I am not familiar with, that I'm eager to learn, especially doing that twist, because my only understanding of Supergirl is the TV show version, which I've never seen the show, but she just looks like the super, like the do-gooder, like female version of Clark Kent. Totally fine. But to do a different twist where she hasn't had that same kind of upbringing and she's just been isolated and doesn't have that kind of sincere emotional connection to humanity like Clark has, I think that's a very interesting story that you can dive into and explore. And just to see, like, okay, is she gonna eventually get to this point where Clark Kent is? I think it's very much like a twist and an equivalent to like the Kryptonian version of what was it? Not Born Again, the Batman, Bold and the Brave. Brave and the Bold.
Yes, yeah.
I think
Batman
that's
Born
you have
Again.
Batman Born Again. You have an interesting dilemma where you have like our main character, and like Gunn was talking about, we have our main pillars of the DCU that we're so used to, these familiar characters, and they're going to segue into these other stories. So I think you have Man of Steel segueing, kind of connecting us with, or at least his familiarity connecting us with Supergirl, Batman, so forth with Robin. These characters that are going to be taking up prominent roles, but being introduced in ways that we're not really used to or weren't really expecting. And I think that's going to be a good kind of hook for the GA and the audience. So I think that there's a lot of potential with her movie. With Clark Kent, I think that it is peculiar why Henry Cavill was not brought on board. I guess, like, yes, with Momoa, that's definitely okay. It seems like that's been sealed the deal, I guess. And I just thought like the wording was weird, because I laughed and I memed about it, because like, yeah, Jason Momoa felt like this had to be, story was like a trilogy or something like that, so we're giving it to him. I'm like, that's fucked, because first of all, I'm sure Gal thought that Wonder Woman could have been a trilogy, and that didn't happen. But they changed that because
I'm sure is like,
they left the door
Cavill's still
open
waiting
now
for a second movie. He never got that second.
Yeah. So I just think that, personally, I think that they should have kept Cavill around, and just, if they're doing these Elseworlds projects, what's the problem? I don't understand that at all. Like, are they really just that opposed to having this competition? But then they're having the Batman like,
And a
it's
Superman
just
TV
weird.
show. Like they're doing another show.
Yeah,
as well.
I just don't understand. The only thing I can think of and comprehend is maybe that they probably had some pre-existing conversation. Yes, we have to look at like Henry Cavill's tweets and being excited, like can't wait to have pursue the Spider or Superman with James Gunn leading the DC and all this kind of stuff. Like it's sad to see that and then see where we are now. But I'm certain that there must be some serious conversation that was held there where James Gunn talked to him and said like, hey, like.
They
These are
did.
our
They had a
steps,
meeting.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
well, like, yeah, they didn't just kick him to the curb or whatever, kick him on the rain, but just I think they probably explained to him their vision of Superman, and maybe they convinced him so that he would leave on his own terms. And it's like, we're not going to fire you,
Just
Cavill.
younger,
You need to leave.
younger.
Yeah, younger.
Yeah. Yeah, Superman, could it be Cavill being there would give Snyder Bros. More fuel for endless Twitter war? Well, that doesn't matter because there's always been endless Twitter war until for those people, unless Zack Snyder like owns Warner Brothers, there'll always be a Twitter war. So it's just like, I don't know. You'll have like again, fire James Gunn was trending again today, right? Because of this Slate and for whatever reason and stuff. So. Vince Morris is going to be interesting to see this version of Supergirl versus Lobo, Brainiac, and Darkseid down the line. I agree. And yeah, we talked about that. So yeah, anything else on Superman, Supergirl, everything like that?
Superman.
How
Superman.
different do you think a suit is gonna look? Because they got to make it just differentiate from.
You're gonna change the
'Cause I
Pantone
mean-
of the blue like one shade.
Well,
but like the
big-
symbol,
big
I imagine
question-
the symbol
yeah.
would be looking different.
Symbol. The other rumor, like because the runny's based off Superman has like the crescent on the cape as well, so that's like a change up. But then the other big argument, because people that don't like it and do like it, is underwear or no underwear, because the trunks.
Yes.
Man, I still didn't have them. Lots of people do not like Superman with trunks, but that's the classic look, right? So
They could just give him James Gunn's hair. Big like
Superman.
he would
Even
look
as
very
his
different
trunks.
from
I'm like,
previous versions.
Why does he have James Gunn's hair as his trunks? You know,
Looking like
Just
Magneto with
As
his
his
helmet
trunks, yeah.
yeah, Magneto from the X-Men. Yeah, so well, we'll be there again. That'll be fun. I'm very interested. I'll feel bad for the Supergirl actress if she does Flash. Someone really likes her. Like, oh, sorry, we're going elsewhere. But again, to me, if they do use some of these actors and actresses, why couldn't they use her? We'll see. I think. Why?
The way you said like, oh, she's going elsewhere, and then I just imagine her being like, oh, I'm going to the Elseworld, like I'm going to be in that universe. They're like, no, that's not what we said.
Yeah, you're going elsewhere
You're
with
kicked to the
Cavill.
curb like Cavill.
Yeah, these Superman people, they can't keep them. But yeah, what do I got up here? Oh, let's do Lanterns, because that's a quick one. I just have something to say because it's just strange in the video, and I think they say it here in the article. So Lanterns. So this has been in the works for a while, but what happens is that old shows and all the things work, they're dead. This is a new thing started up. As it says here, Greg Berlanti's long and work Green Lantern series has been scrapped, and Gunn and Safran have parted ways with a longtime DC steward. Berlanti was the guy who did a lot of the CW stuff. So let's see. In its place, we'll take on a new space cops with power rings. Our vision for this is very much in the vein of True Detective. It's a terrestrial based. It will feature prominent Lanterns Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart in one of their most important shows they have in development. This plays a very big role into leading into our main story we're telling across film and TV. So the only thing I'd say on that is I'm very excited for Green Lantern. We got that one Ryan Reynolds movie, it bombed and DC got scared. I love the concept, love the characters. Jon Stewart, yes, bring it on. I'm very curious, and again in the video he says like, yeah, there's a mystery they're looking into. To compare it to like True Detective, which is this like cop drama and it's very serious and dour, I was like, all right, especially because later on with the Wonder Woman thing, the show, they're like, oh, just like Game of Thrones. Like, it feels like
my
just...
God, it bothers me so much. It's the
Yeah.
exact same as Zaslav looking for a Feige
Yes,
type for the
yeah.
role. It's just such a meaningless statement.
So I didn't like that at all, because like, all right, like, show me what you're gonna do first, instead of just like, this is like Game of Thrones, this is like True Detective. But I'm just excited this is confirmed, this HBO Max. The biggest thing for me is just like, they talking about it's gonna be like space-based. This show is going to have like a big budget, unless it's a very mini series. Like, you're going to have two superpowered characters who project things with a ring in space constantly, and a lot of times they're bumping into other aliens. Now, again, we've seen many places do that, but you have Warner Brothers who fucking had to cancel Batgirl because they had to like get some money back. So obviously the hope is these films do well this year, the slate does well, but it's one that I'm still surprised is just a show, but I'm very excited, and obviously we'll be reviewing that and stuff like that. But is True Detective owned by Warner Brothers? Because the show, yes, S-Bubs, it was an HBO show, so that's why it just was very like, HBO Warner Brothers centric, or like True Detective and Game of Thrones and stuff like that.
Well,
So
is that what they said about Green Lantern? Because I'm not seeing that. I
Yes.
think it really.
No, it's
I've
in
only
the,
seen
it's
the
in
Game
the video
of.
in the articles. It's in
I
the
only see
article
that
I
with
sent
the
you.
Wonder Woman show,
No,
though.
they said because they said True Detective, and I remember too because I showed Emily, and she just looked at me like, yeah, like,
I can
like
confirm. I see that on the article.
yeah,
that I've opened.
it's supposed to be like True Detective. So, but I'm a Lanterns fan. I'll be very excited, and we get both of them. Those two are some of my favorites. So, Dylan, I don't think you've ever seen the Green Lantern stuff. Do you have any?
I
interest
have
in,
seen
like-
the Ryan Reynolds.
You have seen
one,
the Ryan Reynolds,
but it was just like on in the background.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know if I was really watching it, but it was not very good.
As one would do.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what people do. Yeah, I think just for me in general, with this Gods and Monsters chat, that name still is weird. The buy-in for me to get into a TV show, like they really got to sell me. I think it's going to be like I'm not even going to go see all these movies. So for me to invest in a TV show, like they really got to have a really sound pitch. They didn't really do that here. Now, if I see the people who are working on it, maybe some of the cast, and probably after it's already out, and if people are talking about it and it's really good, maybe I'll check it out. But like even Peacemaker's getting great reviews and stuff, and like I still pretty much have zero interest in that, even though I like Suicide Squad and that character. So I don't think I'll be checking this one out. Doesn't really do much for me, and I don't like. I've seen that Ryan Reynolds movie, but like otherwise, don't really have much connection with the character.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing too. That like I don't know if you or anybody else would have been that way if the MCU started that way, right? Like the MCU was like they had all
Yeah.
these movies and they got you, and then when it's like shows, like okay, I'll check these out. Where that's a different route, right? Where like each year you'll have these shows where the shows could be a bigger commitment. So for people that are more on the edge, I don't think they're locked right away. It is you gotta like earn a lot, and then maybe if you see a bunch of DC movies, like okay, I'm down for all this stuff. Give me more, but it's like it's a big jump to do that.
Especially when some of these shows are characters and names that like I've never heard of before.
Yes,
And a lot of people, I think, will be in my boat where Booster Gold means nothing to them, and
Yeah.
they won't have any sort of association with it. Lanterns, I think, will be set up for pretty good success, possibly. Like that name alone is pretty powerful still, even if that one movie that does exist wasn't that great.
And I guess, all in the game he did say this. He called it an HBO event show. So, like Last of Us, Game of Thrones scale budget. So, that's good. And that's what I hope. If they give it the same budget of Thrones and Last of Us, and they do, it's an HBO event show. But still, like, if that,
just name dropping the biggest, most
Yeah.
popular things only.
but if it is every year they pick one show and that's like their one they poured all the money to, like that's why we don't got Last of Us and Game of Thrones at the same time. If it's 1 year, hey, the big show for HBO this year is Green Lantern, then all speed ahead. I just don't want it to look bad. I don't want, and that sometimes happens with MCU and Star Wars. Like we've been like that, where Game of Thrones rarely looks like that. Last of Us like looks great, so it's one of those things where I just hope they give it the love and stuff like that. So, Kirklin, you want to give some love? Say for more lanterns. Go check out our retrospective we did years ago of Green Lantern.
Like coming into the slate, I was expecting lantern stuff. I've always loved the idea of lanterns. Again, I'm not a super big DC guy, but I've seen them enough on the animated show, or at least one character in particular. But yeah, so like I like the idea of them as well. And like getting this news that it's a show, I think that's honestly like better, just because there's so many concepts that kind of come with lanterns now in a movie.
Yeah.
Like you can slowly introduce them, but I don't know. I just think, especially with how good some of these shows have been that we're watching right now, it's just
True.
like, man, I'm liking this format. So lanterns tied with that, I'm totally game for. And yeah, like the HBO name drops, whether it was Game of Thrones, Last of Us, all these different things. It definitely kind of, I don't know, makes me chuckle or eye roll to a certain extent. But I mean, like all in the game mentioned there, if what that means is that it's bringing the budget of what those shows are, and just like the actual attention to detail that those shows did, like those are beautiful looking shows.
Acting
They-
talent too. Like we need some, like the way you got Pedro. so, like,
costume designs.
Yeah,
Oh.
like we need some if we're gonna do this buddy cop comedy, we need some A-class actors here.
Absolutely, and I think what the Green Lantern power is so fascinating to me. But like at the end of the day, if the characters are just not really fun to watch, like I'll probably check out after 1 or 2 episodes. So I definitely would have or high hopes for this. I have high hopes for any show that I would commit to watching. But yeah, and like I said earlier, like I think, or I didn't say this earlier, Lanterns was one of the things I was really looking forward to in the slate, but by the end of it, like it's kind of just shadowed by something like the Supergirl content or Swamp Thing, and that was kind of shocking to me. That like again something that I was looking forward to is just oh yeah I'll look out for a trailer or whatnot. Like I'm really not counting down the days for the Lanterns shows or show like some of the other things on the slate here. But still, I think it's everything they said isn't negative. It's just it's a little bit too far out for me right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about with this. You made me think of something there, which is, in this blurb for this, they talk about how this is going to be, these characters, this world, I guess, will be very important for the, I guess, TV shows and the movies, like the crossovers and stuff. I forget where the exact quote is, but it makes me think that they would probably want to get some pretty A-list stars for this, even if it is a TV show, because they're going to have the idea of, I mean, obviously Justice League is the most straightforward thing of Lantern being on the team there, and they want a big A-list actor for that, but I feel like they probably will go all out rather than having maybe a different caliber or style of actor for these things. It seems like they do want a lot of people jumping around from TV show to movie to animated to game, as we mentioned earlier as well.
To comic book. It's like, you got to draw your own comic book too. No, and that does make me think when they're talking about like a mystery and it tying in and stuff like that, I think they kind of tip their cap to, and there's something I have later on about, there's a movie that they didn't announce their project because they said like, it's a rumor, but someone said like the title would kind of be a spoiler. And I think that means whatever our first like big bad's going to be is going to be someone from space. Now, of course, usually that's most of the time, but I just like that. I think that's what it's going to be. They're going to act as like the way Hulk warns the team in Infinity War that something's coming. I feel like that's what the Lanterns are going to do. They're going to warn our Earth heroes like, hey, like you get like, we got a like Green Lantern Corps up there. You guys should get like some sort of protection because like shit's coming and stuff like that. So that's what I feel like that's the exact line they're going to use from the movie. They say shit's coming and then they fly away and stuff like that. So
Mr. Freeze is on his way. That's like the big Justice League villain.
Hell yeah. RPGs, freeze cannons, everything. So, Taylor, someone I think you're a bit more positive on the Lantern movie. I feel like you'll be excited for this. You can be with me to the bitter end on these reviews when Dylan and Kirklin jump out,
They're not tapering out.
I am pretty.
Whoa, you got
Spike
real
the
loud
Mike
there.
Daniels
Yeah, what
over here.
happened?
Whew.
You roiding up over there? I'll turn you down a bit.
Hello.
Okay, you're turned down. Go
Can
ahead.
you hear me now?
Go ahead, talk. You're good.
Is that good, Dylan?
Okay, I think you're good now.
Okay.
I'm constantly adjusting. Don't worry.
So I am totally going to be there for the reviews. I don't see any reason why I'm not going to be. Yeah, the movie is definitely on the more positive side for me. I really want more Green Lantern. As far like I don't know who my favorite DC hero is, but as far as I can tell, I think Green Lantern is pretty high up there, and I don't even know too much about him based on the comics and whatnot. But I like that there's a galactic police force of just aliens that just have the power of the ring and the power of hope. Is it hope or is it free will or what is the
kind of hope? It's like not most of it like
optimism,
not being fear, will. Let me get the exact one, but they all have all the colors have different ones. Like one's for hatred, one's for love, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so. Like I do remember walking into a store and seeing like a comic book cover. I think it was like HMV when those were open back in the day. They had a Green Lantern comic and it had like all the different ring colors. There was like red, yellow, and everything. I was like, this is so cool. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for seeing different colored skins for my heroes and stuff like that. And so these different costume types, I was hugely invested in that. I'm pretty sure the Bionicles exist in the Green Lantern universe because they're in one of the comics too. But yeah, it's just go ahead.
Okay, so I was green is willpower, the yellow lanterns are fear, red is rage, orange is green, black and gray is death.
Orange is green.
Orange is green.
What the orange is green.
What does it
Sorry. Gray. They're really green centric. They're like recycle. That's all they're doing. They're just cleaning up trash around the galaxy. White is life. Black and gray is death. A light blue is hope. Kind of like a purple is compassion. Then pink is love. So there you go.
Pink is love.
Yeah.
Love that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so if they're all pink as love, what are they all doing like to fight? Is it just like
fight with Morpheus?
Fight with love.
Yeah.
You ever seen Marriage Story?
Yeah, fight with love. MJ's. Oh, go ahead, Taylor.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I will be there for the reviews, and there's so much more about these characters I want to know. I don't think HBO Max is going to flop this show at all. I think they're gonna have a good budget in there. I think we're gonna go into these alien planets.
So.
It's gonna look fucking incredible. Holy shit. Like you're not even gonna think it's a green screen. It's gonna look like the real deal.
Good. I like that. I like that power there going on there. So in which year y'all think we'd get a JL movie? So if we got 10 projects, right? And if the idea is 10 movies a year, 2 movies a year and 2 shows, that would be like, so that's what, 4, so that's only like a 2-3 year plan. I think we're like, it sounds like a long time, but I think we're looking at like a 2027, 2028. Like it sounds long. I think I'd say 2027.
Wait. If the first movie is coming out in 2025,
Yeah.
and there's 2 a year, 25, 26, 27, 28. So we're already looking at 2029.
Yeah, but like what we talked about was his contract, and because he did say things could change this in the entire thing, I think we'll get a jail movie before his contract's done. That's my theory. It's even though we got these movies announced, they did say, hey, like this isn't everything, and I could see them being like, oh, that swamp thing, like that's like later on down the line. We just want to put it out now. I just feel like there's no way James Gunn's gonna go 4 years and not do a jail movie. I think under his watch,
Isn't
he's
that
gonna
like a
want to do one.
huge hype announcement? Wouldn't they want that as like a
Well, I think
opening
they'll.
thing?
I think they'll wait though. They'll, like that's like a like this July at Comic-Con. Like I think they're
I
gonna
see,
wait for
okay.
a crowd, or I think they would wait till like the year after Superman. Like let's say Superman goes well, everyone's loving the Gunn. You directed it well, and then he's like, guess what I'm directing next? Justice League, and then like everyone's like, oh yeah, Justice League. So like, I think. See, I suppose it's 2028 this at the soonest. Yeah, I agree with that. I'll say also a possible late 27, possible late. That's what I'm going with. So
I think later.
2038.
I don't think a Justice League
We'll
is
be dead.
necessarily like
we won't get to
his,
see one.
I don't think it's his priority. Like just based, like yes, he's starting off like with your classic Man of Steel, but I think he's gonna hold true to these main characters, creating these storylines and introducing new characters that we aren't super familiar with. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's
but he also
gonna be
says
his
that
focus.
they have a main story that's going to lead to something, and we all
Yeah.
know what the something is. It's going to be a big bad
think
threat.
it'd
With,
be a Justice League movie?
yes, yes.
So who do we think that the team, Batman, Lantern, Superman, maybe Supergirl?
Yep.
Who else would be on the team, do you think?
Aquaman, whoever it is,
Yeah,
will probably be
okay.
Momoa.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
Peacemaker.
I hope
Weasel.
not Peacemaker. Whoever plays it too, probably Wonder Woman. I would say, I guess. Like I don't know. Like we'll talk about her in a second, but because like
Yeah.
the show, like do we have anything else on Lanterns, or
No.
could we move to one? Because we could talk about so the show. It's weird that it's like pitched as like it's Paradise Lost Paradise, and it's like, oh hey, this is this is about Themyscira, the origins of Themyscira. You're not going to see Diana Princess before time, but like I swear in the video or in the article somewhere he had talked about like, oh hey, this is before the movies, and it's like, well, if you're saying they're before the movies, that would imply that Gal Gadot is playing said character, but I don't know what that means. So I think Wonder Woman is a potential character on that roster as well. But at the same point, maybe I don't think like Booster Gold, maybe like Blue Beetle if he sticks around and stuff, or even a Flash. So because I feel like I need some new members. I don't want to just be a complete carbon copy and stuff like that, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
And the show, I like the idea. Again, they did like the Game of Thrones, but like I like Themyscira. I think there could be something good there. This show was pitched a long time ago with Patty too, that she had talked about doing it. So I don't think it'll be that version, but I like the idea of even Wonder Woman 2 when we reviewed it. That was one of my favorite scenes was them with them on Themyscira, that opening when they did the games. I don't know if Kirklin and remember where it was like Diana and like these Olympic games where they're competing against one another. I was like, okay, give me more of that. So like I think you could do a good culture of Themyscira, like a 6-episode, hopefully event show. So I like the pitch enough, but I need more. But I like it. So
And sorry if you already said this, but it's like before Diana too, right?
that's what they said. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Whatever version. So no Wonder Woman stuff going on.
I mean, this is a really cool idea, honestly, for me. Again, they threw in the Game of Thrones tag there, so of course that kind of has my mind working on just the logistics and how beautiful and scale wise like Themyscira could be if we're just in like different areas of this otherworldly place, and you just got like basically Superwoman like everywhere just kicking ass. Like I think on paper like that sounds interesting to me, especially you said like if it's like a 6 episode or whatnot, just to see these like warring factions like within Themyscira, because from my experience, it's just like Wonder Woman and like her mom and like the select like Amazonians that you kind of interact with, but just diving a little bit deeper in there, like there's like different factions or whatever, or at least two
for sure
separate ones, and like I don't know, like it's something different, and the fact that you're just staying away from Diana, it's not like she's just going to be like the golden child. Like I really won't know what the result is on these characters, and again, like if it's the Game of Thrones type quality that they're pitching here, like I love and hate a lot of characters throughout those shows, so I don't know. I don't really have any reasons to really be, I don't know, negative on this. I think it's going to be a show that a lot of people will probably just pass because I don't know, it's not up their alley too much. But for me at least, I think, barring like a really awful first trailer, I definitely think I'll be checking this one out right at release and hopefully sticking through it.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be there checking this one out.
You're passing through.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think the title's very good, just in terms of the marketing side of things. I don't know. Just doesn't ring. Just doesn't ring. It doesn't roll off the tongue. I feel like there's a couple names in here that, I feel like I'm pretty tuned in on this stuff. I mean, more Marvel than DC, but I still like trying, make sure I know what's going on. A week from now, Paradise Lost, Authority will be gone from my mind, like until
They'll
2026 when like a trailer comes out. Like it'll be so hard to remember the titles and just that those things exist. So I don't know, not really my vibe. I don't think I'm too interested in the lore of that particular area, but yeah, anyway, that's really all I have to say on that.
Maybe the game will get you in there. You'll get that one-room game. You're like, fuck, I love
I'm
Themyscira,
very interested in the game,
Yeah.
even though we haven't seen anything about it yet, but just the developer and whatnot combo is a good mix. So who knows? Maybe that'll be, who knows if that's Elseworlds? Maybe that's in
think
the
that's
Gods and Monsters
Elseworlds.
universe. So who knows?
I think it's going to be Elseworlds. Taylor, you as jazzed about this as Lantern? It's probably not, because you said Lantern may be one of your favorites, so.
I love Game of Thrones, so I mean, if this is going to be
That's what they
Game
want
of
you to
Thrones, yeah, that's what they want me to think. So I'm
It worked
curious
on Taylor
though.
and I.
Yeah,
Um,
apparently.
there.
Yeah.
I-
Game of
I'm-
Thrones, you say?
I'm curious because if this is going to be Game of Thrones style, like, are they talking about the way they're writing the characters? Are they talking about the way they're filming the scenes? Are they talking about all the sex stuff? Like, what kind of thing are they picking and choosing
Nothing.
here?
I like that you could have said maturity, but you just went all the sex stuff, not the blood, the vine syringe. Like, are they bringing us the sex stuff? Am I getting Themyscira sex stuff?
I mean, I'm sure James Gunn was like pitching this to the higher ups and
Well,
stuff. So
yeah. Oh, wow. Just sex stuff. Themyscira, like, boom. That's what he
got the
tweets
job.
out.
Honestly, Zaslav would
10
probably be into
episodes.
that. Let's be real.
Like Matt Reeves, he just tweets up Themyscira sex stuff. Like, boom. No, I think it means like the tone, it's more political. Maybe like we have Swamp Thing, which we'll talk about. Like, and he did like specify that they want variety. So I think we will get some like M-rated or R-rated things. So I that'd be great if they did that. But I took it more as just like medieval political drama in a way, like that, like Kirklin was about factions and stuff. But who knows? Maybe we'll see some people throw down. So
cool.
Taylor sounded like you and more, but definitely got interrupted as he's trying to pretend grab something off screen.
He was hoping for the sex stuff. Let's be real.
Yeah, so smooth. Let's take a ad break and we'll get back to some of these other projects. We'll be right back. All right, what do I got next on my list here? Let's talk about Waller, another great title. But anyways, so let me pull up the description here, because here's another one that's very confusing when we talk about timeline stuff, but here we go. In a spin-off of Gunn's own HBO Max hit series, Peacemaker, Viola Davis will return as the ruthless, morally ambiguous head of a government task force. It is being written by Crystal Henry, Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, the creator of the Doom Patrol TV series. Now, the other thing they talked in this video that they would feature members from Peacemaker or Team Peacemaker, and I think it was like takes place in between the events of 1 and 2, which I guess they did announce Peacemaker 2, so that's still happening. I don't know how I feel about this, because again, this whole like we have these 4 films and like okay, like a reset happens and then we go off to a new thing, but it's like even if we get like 2025, the DCU, and then we get this Waller show, it's like it feels like it's still connected to the past stuff. So I'm kind of hoping they do some things that make it make sense and it not being messy. Again, will it care to the general audience? Maybe not, but for my fanboy brain, it's going to feel kind of weird if we have this thing that's kind of in between continuity. But the thing that makes me excited is Viola, I love. She's not been used enough. She was in the original Squad, and in the sequel Squad and Peacemaker, she's in there like only like miniature amounts. Like she's like one of the best actors in the world, Academy Award winner. So I'm excited to see her like lead a show. And I think for DC fans, like actual DC fans, the cred of having the writer of Watchmen, which is just fucking phenomenal at TV show, and Doom Patrol, which did just get canceled, but that was one that people loved, and were like some other CW shows that people, not the greatest. Doom Patrol is like such a weird show. The DC cred gets me very excited. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one, just on the base of the talent, not so much I don't know the pitch of, but I think this is another one too. You're talking about like Game of Thrones stuff. I don't think you're gonna be getting the Waller sex stuff, but I think this is gonna be like rated M for like violence and like a spy, not a spy thriller per se, but just something like that. So how you feeling about Waller?
Yeah, James Gunn, when he was talking about it in his video, it made me kind of very intrigued because of the way he was selling it. He said it with this kind of
Sex stuff.
slight, yeah, sex stuff. He said it with this slight, like I feel like it's gonna have a Peacemaker humorous kind of tone to it. I think it's gonna have
No,
something
I hope
in there.
not.
That's how I felt like he was saying it. Not to
No.
that degree, but I think a lot of unexpected turns that we aren't prepared for. I'm trying to remember how he actually phrased it, but he said it was like he had a smile on his face, but it was like a cheesy way, like, oh, it's just going to be so many things you aren't expecting and being able to predict.
I think
or
that
something
sounds
like
about right.
that.
Yeah,
So-
you're in for some surprises or whatever.
yeah, and I took that like it's going to be the Peacemaker kind of cheekiness to it.
And again, I also like Peacemaker. I'm not saying like, oh, I just don't know if I need that for the Waller show. I hope that's more serious, but it's, we'll have to see. But Dylan, any interest? You also didn't see Peacemaker, so I think this is probably a skip for you on Waller.
Yeah, I'll pass.
You'll pass. Kirkland, you passing? You liked Peacemaker? You like Waller?
I did like Peacemaker. I like Viola Davis for sure. I feel like I like that character as well, but
Yeah.
just because it's like it's such an expected thing. Like, okay, I'm getting a Viola Davis. Oh my gosh, easy for me to say. Viola Davis
It's not
Waller
easy.
project is like just seeing it on there with the rest of Slate. It's just, I don't know. It's not that exciting for me. I'm excited to get excited for it with like that first trailer or whatnot. Like
This
all
is.
these other
I predict
projects.
if it's good, this is a pilot Kirkland show where Kirkland's not that interested, and then the pilot happens. Like, you know what? I had it. House of Dragon, Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like, oh, got me right into it and stuff like
I'm
that.
ready for it. I love that, like not looking forward, be like, oh, this show, it's gonna be the best thing
Yeah.
ever, because I don't have super high expectations. Then
Mhm.
I jump in for first episode, that pilot, and it just grabs me by the knees and drags me into the
By the
world of
knees?
Not
Waller.
the feet, the knees. Who's
Jeez.
grabbing
No,
you
it's
by
grabbing me by the
Oh my
kneecap.
god, those
Oh,
poor
my calves.
knees.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I won't
And
be
I-
expecting it.
What I'd like is, I don't know what the plot would be, but I would like it like how they set these Suicide Squad and Task Force X teams. Like, I'd like some sort of semblance of how does this character do this, and how does she like sulk these people out, like how does she like find out like who to use, and how does she get bad dirt on people and stuff like that. Like, I would like something like that. So I hope that's the route we go, not the comedic route like Taylor is pitching, but we'll see. So then Kirkland, I'll throw it over to you. This one first for Creature Commandos, because
Yeah.
you say you're very excited about a 7-episode animated series written by Gunn that is already in production. Originally a team of classic monsters assembled to fight Nazis. This is a modern take on the concept. The voice actors have yet to been cast, but the executives are looking to find people who will voice the anime characters and also portray the versions in the anti-hero show up in the movies and series. And you can go I'll try and get the roster. I forgot about the roster
Okay,
of
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, this was the first thing I saw on the slate. It's just like, okay, what's James Gunn cooking up here? What are these who are these goofballs on screen here? And I mean, again, like just looking into them a little bit, and like you just mentioned their origin, where there was just, it was like a team of like classic monsters just like paired up to fight Nazis. It's like, holy fuck, that is so wacky. And I was in the mood to be reading that and being like, this is awesome. I really want to just get in on this. And I think like that first shot of just the character designs, the animation style, it's so beautiful to me. It reminds me of like what Vox Machina is doing right now, or even Invincible to an extent. Like, it's not as I don't know, easy to see like the sharper lines, but just the detail on all these characters, it just looks so good. And I'm a big sucker for animation. And again, it's just such a goofy like band of misfits in my eyes that, you know, if they're fighting like a just bad guy equivalent, like I'm excited to see. What are you shaking your head for? This guy.
Everyone go join our Discord. Fucking S Bubs. He's like, oh, the Creature Commandos voice cast just dropped. It's a picture of the. Remember when they did that stand-in for the Monsters Universe with Johnny Depp, Javier Bardem, Tom Cruise, when they announced they were making the Monster Universe? Very nice, S Bubs. I'm looking for the real cast. This guy fucking drops me the Monster Universe picture, but.
But like for these guys, like I don't know all the characters. I know it's like Mrs. Frankenstein is probably the protagonist from what I was reading about or whatnot. There's a Frankenstein equivalent type character. Weasel's in there. I'm so pumped to be getting more Weasel content. And it's like Rick Flag Sr. or something, which is a character that I like. I don't have much attachment for, but just the fact that this is going to be like the father of Rick Flag, I think that just, I don't know, has a little bit more, again, tie into that world. And for me, it's a band of misfits that I'm excited to just see what they tackle. And, you know, it's just what was it, like a 7 episode, I think it was mentioned.
And I bet they're going to be like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like very, like it's not major stakes for the overall world, but I am excited to see just what this introduces, because this is in chapter 1. It's not in the Elseworld project, so just to see what characters kind of like Gunn said, like bounce between animated to a live action or whatnot. And yeah, I don't know, I'm down.
Yeah, so it says the characters who will appear, and Gunn had said one of these characters is already appearing in Waller, so you got that going on. But Rick Flag Sr., Nina Marzalski, Dr. Phosphorus, Eric Frankenstein, and the Bride of Frankenstein, who is positioned as the lead. And I agree with S. Bubs, who said in our Discord that Rick Flag Sr. will probably be in Waller. I agree, because we lost Rick Flag in Suicide Squad, right? So it makes sense maybe the dad is like, what's happened to my son? So... You know, you like that pitch, Dylan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You should be the voice actor for him, I think.
I don't think I played Joel Kinnaman's dad, though. That's the problem. Like, I'm not that old yet, you know? So.
Animated, maybe, you know, you don't
True,
see.
but I got to be in live action, too. I got to do it all.
Yeah, and video games.
I got to draw my own books.
Comic.
Yeah, grab my own knees, you know, all that shit. What about this one, Dylan? Nice 7 episode. Is this maybe like a pilot, see? Or is this like a tell me about it in 7 weeks?
I think this is, when it's said and done, if it's really good, I'll check it out, because it seems like it could be fun. Just on a quick side note, I guess, the prospect of kind of going back and forth between animated versions of the characters, live action, and kind of having the same voice cast going back and forth, I'm not really too excited about that concept either, so this being kind of kicking off that idea, I guess, is just, I don't know, I'm not too excited for it. Some of these characters seem like fun, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's, once again, you're going to have to really sell me to get me in to watch some of these TV shows. One of them that we haven't talked about yet, I am interested in, but the other ones, I haven't been sold yet.
Yeah, it's one of these things that there's a couple projects in this. I think there's 3 in this slate that when I saw them, I was like, well, there's no this is a James Gunn slate. Like, it just says like you saw this, like, okay, and this is like suspect number 1, where it's like if James Gunn got to make a slate. Now, when I had this sent to me this morning, I did not have it specified that it was a show and animated, so I was like, Jesus, they're doing this live action, like I don't know about this. But now when I saw this, I was much better on the pitch, because like, okay, animated, that makes sense. This just feels like a James Gunn dream like this just feels like something he wanted to do and was part of the deal. Like, if I do this, you gotta let me do a Creature Commando show, you know? It's like, and that'll be fun. He loves these fucking team up here, right? Guardians Squad, we're gonna talk about the Authority. This is his bag, and he's writing all the episodes, so I think I will enjoy it base level. I don't know if I don't think we'll be doing like midnight reviews, but you know, we'll be dropping maybe some reviews for it and stuff like that. But it's definitely I think it can be fun. And even though like one character will be in Waller, I don't think it's going to have too much connection. Like, you have to, like, Mom, did you see Creature Commandos? You're not going to understand Justice League if you haven't seen Creature Commandos. Did you play the game?
You play the Weasel stand-in comic.
Yeah. And MJ says, I think MCU's Phase 1 was still better looking than this DCU Phase 1, but we'll see. I'd have to
more cohesive, but I don't know. This is definitely more bold. And it has TV shows, it has movies. This has probably more stuff for different audiences, whereas Phase 1 MCU is kind of more simpler in its structure.
Yeah, and you only had 6 movies, right? You had 2 Iron Mans, a Hulk, Cap, Thor, and Avengers. That was a pretty line to like, here we go. And the other thing is like they got to do it first. At DCU, like I think it's smart that they don't do the exact same because like that's what we kind of just did last time and it didn't work. Right now they didn't do character by film, but they tried to go like, okay, we're starting here and the end goal is Justice League, and I think their end goal is Justice League, but it feels like they kind of want we want to build a world first and then get to the Justice League. You know?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, that's like go back to MCU Phase 1. Like that's just a bunch of white dudes in these movies, and they build up into this movie with a bunch of white dudes and one white woman on a team. Whereas this
who
is
didn't
like
get a movie.
there's tons of diversity here, whether that's like weirdos like Swamp Thing, but also like Waller and Supergirl and stuff like that. So I think just having more variety. Paradise Lost like might not be a single male in that entire show. That's awesome.
The bad
that's
guys.
cool. Yeah, exactly. The villains.
Yeah. Taylor, I feel like you had to look at this photo and be like, you know what, this is something for me. I feel like
It's like Ghost Rider. Is that Ghost Rider in that lineup?
Flaming Head.
No, wrong universe, but
I don't know if I would necessarily wait
I forgot
day,
Weasel's in it too. Sorry, I forgot about Weasel. He's in there,
I mentioned
of course.
Weasel.
It's definitely, I don't know if it's like my day one launch, like gotta be there for it. But I no doubt am going to tune into it because if it's jumping into live action and it has a play in that story, then I feel like, okay, I need to be a part of this. I need to know and be invested in these characters.
This is like the Clone Wars for the DCU, Taylor. You know how you watch Clone Wars? This is going to be that.
Are there clones in this show? Because I'm fucking there. Midnight, let's go.
Arguably, Bride of Frankenstein could be kind of a clone, you know? She's a clone of...
That is a debate for sure.
I was getting Hellboy vibes too from that fish creature.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that character's name is, but
Abe Sapien.
You're going to
there
get some
you go.
sex stuff in here, Taylor, I think.
Sex stuff?
It's possible.
Fish guy?
I think so. I think
You
it's
have
gonna
like
be
a
hard
couple,
R.
right? You have the Frankenstein duo, right?
Oh, yeah. You want some Frankenstein sex stuff?
I'm not big on like the undead resurrected sex stuff.
Oh, that's a shame. You're not gonna like your birthday.
Some of the best
present,
content.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. Yeah, but I think that it's gonna be cool. Like I'd like to see like the art style of like a trailer or something like that. Like I want something to kind of like rope me in because all I have is just like this picture of these characters and just James just talking about it. But I don't like, again, it's one of those things like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. I don't know these characters, so I don't have anything to go off of. I don't have any reason to really be excited, so I just need something, anything, Gunn. Just give me some juice. So
That's fair. I think he'll give you some juice soon. So, all right. So we talked about that. Let's talk about the Authority. So you got the Authority. Let me get the little synopsis here. Again, don't know much about the Authority, so I will not be able to help out any questions here. A movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet that first originated in the late 1990s under an influential input known as Wildstorm, run by artist and now lead of DC Publishing, Jim Lee. One of the things of the DCU is that it's not just a story of heroes and villains. Not every film and TV show is going to be about good guy versus bad guy. Giant things from the sky come and a good guy wins. There are white hat, black hats, gray hats. Safran added, they are kind of like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. So I had knew more about the Guardians of the Galaxy at that point when it got announced. So it's not the same level, but I feel like this is that same extent of they were doing their known characters and they did this wacky one, right? And I think, again, this feels like right up James Gunn's alley of like unknown characters. We do whatever the fuck we want. They're in the gray area, right? He always likes to pick like rejects or losers where I don't think these people are losers, but just like they're in the gray area of good and evil. This is one that definitely, all in the game, that's 100% S-Bubs. Everyone's saying it. The boys, like that's the tough thing when I read this. It's just like we have that and we have the best version of that right now on Amazon. So this is one that I'll need director, trailer, cast, all to be like not a home run, but 2 thumbs up for me to get invested because, and of course, like I don't know it, so it's hard for me to get invested, but there's still things that I don't know. And if I hear a pitch, I go, oh, this sounds awesome. Like I can't wait for this. This is like something like it takes trailer, but like go back to when we saw Death Stranding the first time. Had no idea it's Kojima, but it's like, what is this game? I can't wait. Just based off this, just feels very. We've kind of it's like all superhero stuff. I guess is we've been there, done that, right? But this didn't give me anything like there are people that work in the gray area. It's, again, like everyone memed about. I have the boys for that, and it's just like, can you outdo the boys? And I don't think you can. I don't think they'll go that raunchy. So, and even then, this is like everything else they've announced so far. Maybe other than Creature Creature Commandos, I could see how this could eventually go to the greater DCU as far as like Justice League, fighting a big bad, team ups. I don't know how this is going to get here. Are they going to work like the Guardians where they are a separate team in the DC? I've heard them described as like an anti-Justice League. So I don't know. Well, oh, there you go. So maybe that's another thing. Dylan, you're talking about diversity. Didn't you know this? The Authority will also have a same-sex couple as the main love story too, Midnighter and Apollo. I've heard those characters' names. So again, when you're comparing to MCU,
I like that name, Midnighter. That's cool.
I was gonna say Phase 2. Never mind. Even Phase 4, you don't have like a fucking main love story between a woman and a woman.
No,
or a
they
man
just
and
throw
man.
in like random ass characters
Yeah.
in the background who like have one line of dialogue, and that's how they're like, we checked the box, guys.
So they can cut it at any point to send to different countries and stuff like that. So, and that's another thing. Like, that's great. And I'm not opposed because, like, Kirklin was talking about with Waller, like, if my expectations are low, great. I'll go in and maybe it'll blow me away. We'll be talking about, man, we love the Authority. Can't wait for more. But this was like, I know Maddie asked the question what our most anticipated is. This was like the bottom of the barrel for me. So, don't know much. And the pitch didn't really get me going. So, you know.
I'll ride piggyback there because I feel pretty similarly. The thing that I immediately thought of, which you guys are gonna cringe at this, but I thought of Eternals when I read the description of this in terms of like these kind of nebulous characters, good, evil, no one really knows, a bigger team, people that we didn't really know much at the time, or Travis probably knew some Eternals, but it was kind of all going into it. Yeah. And you know, I really like that movie, so obviously it has nothing really to do with it. That's just kind of the thing I immediately thought of. So this one for me, same boat as you, Travis. Director, let me see that cast. Let me get a little more. Let me see that trailer, see what the story's about, and I could be interested in it. But yeah, I don't know the backstory on the Authority. But once again, not a great title. I don't know if this is a good snappy box office hitter kind of title. So we'll see what happens there.
It feels very 90s, like a movie Arnold would have been in, like The Authority.
Yeah,
you know,
it
like
really does.
like that's it's just like it sounds lame. It just sounds like that pitch of like, imagine if superheroes. They're not all good, you know. It's like, all right, like we've gone Deadpool, we've gone The Boys, we've gone other characters that like are in that gray area. But Kirklin, are you getting on Dylan's back for a third piggyback, or are you going your own route?
Could look like a Goomba right here. In
am I
Mario.
carrying two of you right
Stacking
now?
up on
I might
each
as well hop on, I guess.
Oh,
yeah, I think I'll need to wait a little bit longer on this one, like you guys were saying with the trailer, and just getting more information on it. Because I mean, like on paper, reading the pitch of what this is, I think it is interesting. I think it's just not quite like my hype isn't quite there because I've seen things like Watchmen, like Boys, like you really know, Travis. I've seen all the Boys,
Yeah.
but I
Black
can kinda
Adam,
see.
a great film that was in the gray line. Remember?
That's right. That's another one I forgot to mention.
God damn.
But like I don't know, like just like characters, especially superheroes, going to the extremes. I think that is just going to be something that's kind of forever interesting to me, at least, just because it's out of the lines of like my Saturday morning cartoons that I remember. Like it's like at the end of the day, like it was mostly geared towards like a younger audience like that. But if it is going to extremes of just, I don't know, maybe killing people, doing sketchy things, it just, I don't know, it makes it a little bit more interesting there. This is one though. I feel like while I was reading it, and again, maybe just because I had Boys in my mind, I'm like, this just seems like it would work better as a show versus a film. I feel like maybe
I
it is
agree
just going to
too.
be introducing too many things at once. And again, we've seen that done so many times poorly
Can we take
in
lanterns
films.
and this and like swap them? Like that's what I want.
Yeah, but like at the same time though, like looking that this is in chapter 1, this is also another one. I'm not sure if you mentioned, but James Gunn was like really stressing, like this is a passion project of mine.
Yes.
Like I'm really pumped to do this. So hopefully like that passion just, obviously shows through the work. But like the fact that this is introduced in chapter 1, and if they are this, like I don't know anything about them, but just them being called this Authority, like I want to see what effect this has for the entire DCU going forward, knowing that we have this group of Authority members that, as you mentioned, Travis, like sometimes mentioned as like the anti-Justice League. Like that's going to be an interesting just cloud and entity that for when we get eventually, I mean, if this super bombs, I'm gonna just disregard if that case scenario. But like, if we get to chapter 2, chapter 3, is Authority just gonna be like completely killed off or something? I don't know. I just feel like what they represent, it can have a lot of weight moving forward. So that's kind of what I'm hopeful for with this film. But like you guys said, I think I just need a little bit more information to get my barometer up.
Second question, Kirklin from All in the Game. Do you think The Rock turned into the announcement or is still too hurt upset? You think he was watching on his phone? He's in big hand. He's watching.
He's hoping for some Black Adam news.
I think I saw him drinking. I think I saw him drinking Terramana today. Maybe he was sitting down having a nice cold glass of that.
You asked The Rock about DC, and he's like, "Oh no, I haven't watched it. Why would I? Why would he play Black Adam? He'd do the same thing I do to Sullivan. I don't remember playing Black Adam. That'd be a fever dream to him. Never brought up anything like that."
Dwayne, were you fired or just not hired? Which one was it for you?
I left. I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm better than the DCU and stuff like that. So, Taylor, anything on the Authority? I feel like could this be a project you come in and you're just like, this is my favorite one. I can't wait. I love Authority.
The name throws me off because I keep thinking of the Time Variance Authority. I don't know why. Every time I hear the word Authority, I just think of the TVA.
That's all you think of now when you hear the word Authority?
It's all I think about.
Loki's TVA.
Yeah. Now, when I see this like description, synopsis here, I'm kind of with you, Dylan, where I think, okay, Eternals. It was the first thing that popped in my head. I didn't get The Boys at all. It was Eternals that came to my mind. So that being said, if the general consensus is that they're going to be kind of like The Boys, then I'm kind of intrigued because I love The Boys. But then it runs the risk, like, I think with Eternals being everything that it was in a movie, I think that it was tricky to kind of land some of those things with those characters, at least for me. So if you add in the heavy dose of what The Boys does, The Boys is a whole nother can of worms, and that's a lot. One character with that kind of mindset and like aesthetic with Deadpool is great. You can easily do a movie like that. But if you have all these superhero characters or anti-hero characters, and they're all as vicious and vulgar as boys characters, that's gonna be tricky to pull off. But I mean, I'm down for a good time. So
yeah, I mean, to be clear, that's not what they said. This thing is
no,
going
it's
to be.
just
That's
a
just
theory.
that's just what Kirkland and Travis.
Yeah, other people think that too. Yeah, he didn't say just like The Boys.
Well, no, that's
just like the hit show
general.
The Boys, the
general
Authority.
consensus, though, is that if that's what it is, then that's where I'm gonna go. That's all I have to go off of. I don't have
think
anything
just
else.
vibes.
So.
I don't know if you ever see anything of The Boys. Well, I think it just sounds like that sort of way. All those, like, all the characters in The Boys are in the gray area. You know, there's no whiteout, blackouts. You know, there's.
Well, anti-heroes are definitely what's in right now. I mean, Sony's putting their whole fucking life savings on anti-heroes.
Huge.
They are.
Yeah.
All of their lunch money.
Craven this year. Okay, let's take our last ad break, and then we'll answer a Patreon question, then just a quick few other news notes that came from today's pressers, whatnot. So we'll be right back. And we're back. See, I think that was all the projects, making sure we hit them all there. Oh, no,
Booster
sorry.
Gold.
Booster
Skip
Gold,
two.
sorry. I almost forgot. Sorry. So Booster Gold, that's what I'm talking about. An HBO Max series based on a
Swamp
unique,
Thing too.
lesser-known...
Yeah, what about Swamp Thing? You leaving him in the
big
swamp, huh?
Sorry, boys. It's been a long night. Booster Gold, a lesser-known hero created in 1986. Safrans said the series is about a loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Gunn described it as imposter syndrome as superhero. I will say, as someone that likes Booster Gold, and I'm very excited, much like other people, like, yeah, but everyone's been talking about Booster Gold for years, and if you wouldn't know this, but like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, they have like a good connection. They're always very buddy, so people like really want that and stuff. There's very famous friends of Blue and Gold, you know, stuff like that. I feel like they described it in ways that didn't make it sound like great. Like I think Booster Gold literally, when we in years hopefully do like our DCU Chapter 1 rankings on Patreon, I think Booster Gold, the project, could rank very high. I just think they like undersold it a little bit, but I think this has potential to be like a big breakout hit. It's a show which surprised me as well. Again, kind of like the Authority of like, I'd swap those ones as well. I think this would work better as a movie budget, and just, I don't know if we need 6 to 10 episodes of Booster Gold. I get the idea. I think it shorter would have been good, even like 2 hours, but I'm just excited that they are doing some Booster Gold. So, you know, I'll start Kirkland. It is your nickname. So what are you thinking about this?
I mean, right off the hop, I didn't even realize it was a series. I up until this point, I thought it was a film because it just, I don't know, in my mind it works better. I have zero like affiliation with this character. I've never heard of him before today, but just like reading that pitch of he's just like an average Joe who's just taking, regular future tech to just come back and like pop off on like these. It's like the idea of like if you go back to elementary school and you just like you just crush it on all the tests or what, well, most of the tests. I would hope at least.
I think
but,
I'd
like,
do worse maybe now.
yeah, and like I think the hero out of time idea is just always really interesting to me. I like these characters that, again, like you don't really have to explain all the tech. It's just like, oh, he's got this thing that just allows him to do things because it's from the future, and that's fun for me. And I imagine he's gonna be somewhat of a goofy character, like comedic wise.
Chris Pratt is the big, like that type of personality. I don't think that'll happen. I know that's the big meme because James Gunn last week said, "Oh, I'm definitely going to be working with Guardians cast in DC." But like that sort of personality he brings to Star-Lord, Jurassic World, like like Ryan Reynolds, it's that type of humor. That's what Booster Gold is.
Yeah, then that's kind of what I was picturing. So there you go. Like I feel like in my mind I built up this idea of what the character could be and what I would really love from it, and it sounds like you're kind of confirming my thoughts there. So that's exciting. I think the series thing, maybe they just want to spend a little bit more time with like not even so much like his future stuff, but just like him, like his, like how, like maybe the early portions of when he got back in time, or maybe the actual transition there. I think maybe in a series that would work better in a movie. In my mind, though, I feel like I don't even really want that. I just kind of want him to be here with gadgets already, but I don't know. I guess I'll see what I get, but I don't know. Like I think the pitch it really hit well for me, and like we're still very far out from this, but I'm down. I'm excited to check this out because that hero out of time idea, and I'm excited to see what type of, I don't know if he even has like a lot of gadgets or if it's just like one particular thing he kind of relies on, but I'm excited to see that.
There's some different futuristic stuff and everything, but obviously he thinks he's gonna be this hot shit, but he's stuck in a world with like a bunch of other heroes and stuff like that. So, Dylan, did this do anything to your gold?
My gold, my just large quantities of gold. This random gold coin.
Nice, he's ready. He's booster.
That's probably not real gold. No, Travis, you said it. You feel like they undersold this one. I feel like I totally disagree. I think this one just maybe has a simpler pitch than everything else here. I'm totally on Kirklin's bandwagon here. Like, this sounds really fun to me. This is like the one show that, like, okay, I feel like I could be checking this one out. And I think it just speaks for itself in the way that it's very relatable. Like, thankfully, I've not had the traumatic past that Supergirl has. I cannot relate to what that storyline is. It's interesting for other reasons.
14 years
Swamp
in a
Thing.
rock.
There's like a duck pond by my parents' house where I grew up. But like, I can't really relate to Swamp Thing. But I think we could all relate with just like at different points in your life feeling like a loser for whatever reason, or that at Kirkland you're talking about like thinking back to your math test. But like, I don't know. I think we all think about the times like, man, if I was sent back to this point in my life, I would like do all these things differently, all this kind of stuff.
Fuck that kid up.
So really, I would fuck him up in that math test. I just feel like that general conceit of what Booster Gold is seems like just a very relatable thing. Mix that with the comedy, which we all know James Gunn and the team there have the chops for that. We can immediately like kind of picture what that character is like. I didn't think of Chris Pratt, but like that is a very good mix for that kind of thing. So yeah, this is like immediately interesting for me. And obviously I still got to see who they do pick for that cast, and whether or not I'd watch the show. I think that would be a big deal. And who's writing it, and how long these episodes are, and all this kind of stuff. I want to know more of those details. But for a character I haven't heard of before today, I'm immediately into it. And like, once again, this is a great title here, and I feel like this one will be good. This could go past like the people who are interested in comic book stuff or DC stuff. Like, this just like a classic time travel story mixed into this world. And if it's a standalone thing or it has crossovers with other characters from these other things, like, just sounds really cool. So this was a fun surprise for me to hear about today.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, even if we were to read some stuff, I think it's going to be a GV favorite there. Taylor, you digging it?
I'm digging it. I love the notion of a guy who's just, down his luck, loserish in the future. Takes advantage of going back in time with this technology. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot of humorous moments. I personally would love to see a Brad Pitt in this role after seeing some of his
younger
his bullet train
younger
performance.
I just feel like after seeing it, like some of the things he's done.
like Glenn Powell. Like actually, he's not young, but the Glenn Powell. That's another good like comparison. But I think it'll be young 30s, early
Young
30s.
30s?
Yeah.
When I see the
Not Pitt.
latest things that Brad Pitt's done, I feel like these are the mannerisms that would fit into this kind of a
Yeah.
character.
Honestly, Bullet Train, like that's not a bad comparison. You're right on the money, like that type of character, just like Pitt, like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So get a time machine.
Less laugh lines.
Yeah. Get him there, but yeah.
I like
And-
how you said Travis, just like he goes back in time to be a badass, but he's just with a bunch of different superheroes. And it's like the example I pitched. You like go back to do your math test with all
Yeah.
these 6th graders and you're just getting crushed. You're like, fuck, I don't remember how to do this. Poor guy.
I was gonna say, yeah, Brad Pitt for Bird After Real would have been perfect. And all in game, you said Static Shock in the project within 5 years. Announced, yes. Happening, no, I don't think so. That's one people are really wanting to happen, and he's
Good title.
yeah, he's a cool character. Obviously, he has electricity and things like that. So
He's an
yeah, I think
Electro knockoff.
yeah, I think it'll happen. But I'm really
Is
hoping
that the
for
one
Glenn
that Michael
Powell.
B. Jordan was producing?
Yeah, it's part of Milestone, but that's been very quiet. So I don't know what the deal is with that, if they could rework it and stuff like that. But I'm really hoping for Glenn Powell. I see photos of Booster and think that him immediately. Absolutely. He
I think
looks
I have
like
Glenn
Booster.
Powell on my draft list. So
No,
I'm feeling good.
Kirkland does.
I
checked
drafted
today.
him. I picked him for the DC
Yeah.
draft thing specifically. Yeah, you're right.
He's a
you're
handsome
right.
I thought
Man.
the same thing. I saw him like I got him right because that's supposed to tag me. Like no, I don't got him. Kirkland does, but
Good one.
okay. Now, unless something else pops up that I forgot, the last project we're talking about today, Swamp Thing. This one didn't have much on there, but this is the third one that I said like, oh, out of all the projects I thought this one, even before I got the leak, because the first two things I learned about was Superman Legacy, and then I learned about this. Oh shit! What was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, I'm gonna say it right now. A horror film that promises to close out the first part of the first chapter. That's why I feel like it's gonna be. This is gonna be the horror equivalent to what Ant-Man was for the first phase, the MCU or phase 2, where it's like it really had nothing to do with the MCU, was in the world, but it's its own thing. That's what I think Swamp Thing will be, where it's by itself. It's you'll be all over this because it's going to be very comparable to Man Thing and stuff like that. It's good because I still have never watched a show. I hear great things. This is a thing where a couple of years ago I got a show, and after episode 1 they announced it was getting canceled. So just like right away they had all these shows and it was dead in the water. No pun intended. I've heard from 2 people that this already has a director attached, but they have not said anything yet. So what I just want from this is I want that to be a name. I know with Feige and MCU, he's the big creator, so he has the vision and say, but like I can't get excited for Thunderbolts when I see the director's done like a few music videos. I'm sure he's great, maybe he's had a great pitch, maybe he's talented, but just like I like to have someone with some substance or taste there, or not taste, but something like I know, oh, I could look at that. So all I hope is there's someone really good, like from the horror world, attached to this. I love this idea. I love that we got more horror stuff happening in comic books. We should
Like
get
a
more
James
of it.
Wan.
I was just gonna say,
He produced that show that got canceled, so I don't think that's gonna
Did he
happen.
really?
Yeah, but that was that time where again they were like budget cutting. I'd love that, but no, I think he's gonna go off. I would like someone. I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
not gonna be Scott
he was
Derrickson
the
either. But
Director behind the $1 billion movie, right? So wouldn't they'd bring him back, right?
Aquaman 3, he's got to do that one, you know. But
Ari Aster.
yeah, so I would love something like that. Someone with established filmography, which I want for most of these projects. I'm down for some new people, of course, but I just want something where I can go, oh, I know this. And then chances of Guillermo del Toro, that's the big one, right? Is because he had pitched Justice League Dark. I would love that. It's a monster flick. I feel like he's too busy recently. Superbad Mike Fede Alvarez would be a good pick. He did the Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake. Fede Alvarez is a fantastic one because I was down when those rumors were Batman. So I just want, maybe I'm being too just like basic bitch and just saying I want a horror director, but I would like that. I would like someone that's done something, or like, I don't know, that person that has done that new Evil Dead Rise movie that's coming out where that trailer's just fucking scary as hell. Like, get me that person. Like, I want Mike Flanagan. Like, I would love someone where I hear them just like, man, I'm in love with that. But already I'm happy with Swamp Thing and stuff like that. So the Barbarian director, that would be great, but I feel like that's not happening because everyone had that theory because Gunn said I think that was his favorite movie last year or something, but he signed that first look whatever.
Don't let him
deal.
listen to our Golden Geeks then. Sheesh,
Yeah,
might be disappointed
yeah.
by that.
But like he already signed that like first look deal with Amazon or Paramount. It was, I think it was not Amazon. Oh, who was it? Universal? I think it was. Shit, someone in the chat tell me. But so I'm happy this is happening. But again, there's no way I thought almost this wasn't happening with James Gunn. This is like right up his alley. So
Well, I mean, that wouldn't really be a dissuading thing if that guy's just signed to something. If this is going to be the end of chapter 1, this
Yeah,
isn't
true.
coming out until fucking 2027 or 8 or something like that. So we're going to be waiting a long
Oh.
time.
Sam Raimi's Swamp Thing, yeah, I'd be completely up for that, man. That's another good pick. Oof, yeah, but no, you're right, Dylan. There's lots of room there, I guess, because this could be 3 or 4 years down the line. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much to add on this. I mean, I'm super down for this idea of a horror thing, just a better version of Man Thing. You know, go back and check out our retro we did for the Marvel's Man Thing from 2006 or whatever it was. So yeah, I don't know if I have much to break down here, but I too am very curious to see who they pick for director, because that'll kind of be okay. What is the tone of this thing going to be? And I mean, I think even in the write up for this, they said that specifically, like, we want these different projects to have different tones to them, different vibes. There's a reason they put that in the Man Thing sequence and not when they were talking about, you know, the Batman thing or something. Like, they were very intentional with that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's a good weird, but also kind of just like traditional thing in a way. Like, this could be just a almost kind of standard horror movie, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't need to really tie into the greater DC in any way.
And that's the other thing. I think we've talked about this many times, but just to reinforce it, it's like, other than Man Thing, like some practical CGI, like make some of these films. They don't all have to be the $100 million whatever, like 200. Like even the Batman that started at 100 million, which was low for a Batman movie. It only ballooned because COVID. If you could make this some sort of smaller movie where it's like, hey, we don't have to make an arm and a leg for this to be successful, that would be great. Like I don't know what you do for casting, but that's why I think you get someone that just visually can make this really good and stuff like that. And yeah, All in the Game mentioned that he had a first look duel in New Line. That's what it was. So shooting a movie called Weapons in January, which I hope that's not the title. But I mean, the original Swamp Thing movie was directed by Wes Craven. Yeah, we're gonna have to retro that. That's gonna be very exciting to do. Yeah, we will retro that movie when we get close enough. But Taylor, I feel like this is up your alley.
Oh yeah, ever since we watched that first Man Thing movie, and just this being introduced to this character, getting more of him in Werewolf by Night, getting to just be involved with these characters and these. Is he like a hero, an anti-hero? Like what kind of category would he fall under? Like
He's
villain?
he's been back and forth.
Just thinking back to the gray area quote, I feel like he's probably in that
It is
zone.
that, like, I hate to say it, but it is that where it's just like there's been times where he's gone against Batman, but then there's times where like he sees the gray good. So it's someone in the gray, depending where you are and stuff like that.
Well,
in the
that's
green.
okay. I just think it's just super cool to know that like DC has their own version of Man Thing, the Swamp Thing. I like the classic horror swamp monster kind of creature. I think it's very cool and like cult classic. So I think that it's going to be cool to kind of get to explore a Batman Superman universe one. I think that's just super fantastic to explore. And this movie, yeah, I think if they pull it off right, this is a great banger of a film to close out this first arc with, this first chapter. So I'm excited to see like what they're going to be alluding to with Man Thing throughout these other projects that we're going to be exploring in this new singular universe. If this is going to be like I don't want to say the big bad, but the big like be all end all of this kind of first chapter, and how that's going to
I don't think
segue
it
into
will
chapter
be.
2.
That's why I think it's like the Ant-Man comparison, where it's not the be-all end-all. It's like a palate cleanser of like, oh, I don't know why it ends, and they did say it has something to do with it, but again, chapter 1 and chapter 2, they've said publicly that chapter 2 is like the ending of that first. Like that's what the big. So
okay.
that's where I think this would allude to maybe just more like something like a Justice League Dark or more darker forces and stuff like that. So. Mr. Prince.
Yeah, so I think initially this really got me going in good ways. I just, especially him stressing this is like their horror entry into like this chapter. That's something that like, I mean, Werewolf by Night, that's like, okay, that's like Marvel's take on that, but the fact that you don't have like a Disney umbrella over
Yeah.
DC, like they can go dark with this, and like he was really mentioning like this is a horror movie. So like initially I was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. Like I'm never gonna see something like this before. Like like this is gonna be crazy. But the more I stewed on it, it's just like, I hope they don't underdeliver on this. Like and like it's like it feels like a PG-13 comic book horror. I'm air quoting there for the audio listeners there. Like I just feel like because it's so far away already, if we just spend years like building up, it's like, oh, it's gonna be like the first big horror movie comic book that like really feels like a straight up horror movie. And again, like I don't really have any reason to like doubt them. It's just it sounds too good to be true. So I think I want to be a little bit, cautiously optimistic. But again, like if it delivers, this could be something that's like my top whatever DC film ever. Just like it just because it's so unique. I feel like I haven't been like the most positive on Man-Thing, but like like Taylor mentioned, just the cult classic horror type villain. I think a character like Swamp Thing completely fits into that category. And I'm very intrigued into what sort of like aesthetic and style they lean in on Swamp Thing. If it really is like, I don't know,
He's not
gives
in
you
the swamp.
nightmares.
They do like a fish out of water where he's like in the city, and it's like, oh,
He's like
fuck.
Elf. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like looking for his dad. And he slept with my mom back in college.
Is this where Dave Bautista comes in?
No, I think he could, but it sounds like he's not playing Bane for sure. At least he confirmed that, so I'm not sure. But one day.
One thing with Swamp Thing that I was looking into, it seems like, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like there was multiple instances of him like either being in tune with nature, that he can kind of like control the forces of nature, and times that he can't.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so that is a thing. So I'm
the
curious where they go with that.
And the other thing too, I'd say at times he's been a very Frankenstein-like character. Maybe Frankenstein's a bad comparison. Like Beauty and the Beast, where there's like a female that he loves and wants to protect, and like that sort of monster versus.
Because he's like a
person sort of deal.
scientist that got turned into this
Yeah,
thing,
then
right?
obviously
The
that
classic.
happens. So like that's where it is. There's a woman he loves and stuff. So I could see them making a very like Crimson Peak, if people remember that movie, a very like dark gothic romance or something like that. Watch, he'll just have a fucking gun and just be like, it's Swamp Thing time, and just like shooting away, and all the fart jokes will be in there from James Gunn, like that scene of Peacemaker when they're just like it's Swamp Thing on a bus. No, it won't be. I trust Gunn for the most part. So all right, and then we got just a few little things I threw in there. Yeah, I guess we could talk about some of the stuff throughout already. So just hitting on that Flash is going to be reset. We talked about that. It was very confusing where he said Blue Beetle will be the first entry into this universe after Flash, but then Gunn says Superman Legacy is the start of the DCU. So it's very, I don't know. And then he also insinuated that Shazam could stick around this opening. So again, I really don't know what they're doing with that, if it's just word service or if that's the idea. So Waller's still happening, so there's that. Some DCU actors will be brought back. We kind of touched upon that in the Cavill thing. Aquaman 3, we kind of touched upon that. This is a thing that's going around right now, so this is why it's good for the end, so you can tune out if you didn't want to get any spoilers for the Flash, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't sound like it's happened. So this had been out for a while, where the ending of the Flash was originally Flash goes back in time, or whatever, different multiverse, a bunch of shit happens in this movie. He goes back. When he goes back, everything's changed. And why to show it's like a reboot is, so he gets back and he sees Wonder Woman and he sees Gal. It's like, okay, I'm still in the same universe. But then he sees Michael Keaton as Batman and he sees Sasha Calle as Supergirl. And that was to signify, hey, he went back and he really changed a bunch of things. But the rumor is from multiple sources that they are apparently just completely cutting that ending out. So in this way, it would have been a cliffhanger of like, oh, Michael Keaton's still Batman. That's apparently cut out, and they might be filming some sort of new ending for the Flash, which that's what I like hearing. At least like, it sucks about the Keaton stuff, but clearly they're not gonna, they have passed it and they have a new Keaton, like a Batman. I'm just happy we're getting Keaton. That's done. Like, we went from 3 movies to 1 and maybe a spin-off, but that's done. So like, we're not going to get another one. I should bring up this quote too that he said, where was it, about the multiverse stuff, and this is something they didn't reveal today, but he said, because someone asked about Queen, he said, oh yeah, like anything's possible, the multiverse stuff. If we want to have multiverse tales, which I actually know one of the things we're working on does have a multiverse tale, is that we will have it in there. So that, I do like that, because I don't know if that means it's a multiverse story or if that is like an actual Elseworlds they're already working on. But that is the idea, that apparently they're changing Flash. So that's why maybe some of the stuff with Blue Beetle and Aquaman, they might change some things to make it less messy down the road. So that's my hope. So Taylorfield.
So the way you worded that, they cut some of Keaton's stuff, not
ending.
all of his stuff, just the ending.
So I think what will happen in the movie, there'll be like a resolution, and then when you get back, Barry's just doing something, or whatever this new ending is. But the original ending was, now Michael Keaton's in our like prime universe and he's the Batman and stuff like that. But again, for the audience, it would feel kind of weird if you do that and then we're going to have a Batman in Brave and the Bold, which, okay, they want an older Batman, but I don't think they're going to go for a 7-year-old Batman with a kid. I think they'll go for someone closer. So same thing, Cavill, he filmed that cameo. I think that's going to be cut from this movie and stuff like that. Dylan talked about, Ted, how do you feel about the actors voicing them in video games and animation? Like, you've been through this Clone Wars and Star Wars thing, like this whole like all interconnected. Are you for it? Do you think they should just stick to movies? Where are you?
I think it paves the way for a healthy kind of connection where you could have people doing like Ray Park doing the mocap for Maul, and that transitions into Sam Witwer doing the voicing for Maul. Like, you just it creates cool new representations for these characters. I think that's fantastic. And at the end of the day, if you have
But this is
like
the reverse where you don't get that. It'd be an actor doing it all the time.
all the time, and I think
Yeah.
that's totally fine because that's, I mean, Star Wars is leaning more into that now with Katie Sackhoff, for example, for like Bo-Katan. I think there's a great example. She voiced the character in the Clone Wars and Rebels, and now she's playing her live action in Star Wars Mandalorian. So I think that there's a lot of potential and great new opportunities for these actors and actresses to represent these characters in more than one way, wearing the mocap and then getting able to get in front of or get behind a camera and or in front of a camera, whatever the fucking line is. You have a camera pointed at you, and you're gonna dish out a representation of this with like you doing your full, just full like exposed movements to it. So
Your full exposed movements to it. Hey, Kirklin, we were
What did I
talking
come
about,
back to?
Do you have, because it was in the last part of my article here, any thoughts of like the idea of all the connected between the games, movies, TV, and like the fact that the actors are going to be, that's the idea, is casting someone that would do this all?
Yeah, I like the key. I think the key word there was he said like we'll try and get most of the or like it was something like this isn't
Almost like that's the idea. But...
Yeah, that's the idea. In a perfect world, we'll get that to happen,
Yeah.
but understand that's not always the case. And I mean,
like, imagine if they had the perfect actor, perfect Batman, and like, but we need you to voice in this cartoon. The guy says no, like, well, sorry, see you later. Like, I would be like,
Robert
guys.
Pattinson's gone. Like that initial
Yeah,
Matt Reeves.
we need you to
casting.
do this Penguin series. No, man.
I think the main thing I would compare it to there is like What If, because that's a show that had like the live action actors do the voices, but also mixed with some voice actors. And I like pros and cons to both. I mean the voice actors are, I think they really kill it on like the animated voice in, but so maybe it's more often the case that the voice actor would be a better choice for the animated style. But like, you know, it does work sometimes. It maybe depends on, I mean, the individual, maybe the paycheck that they're getting that particular day, you know, to be a little bit more motivated for the role. But I think because I've seen it done good and bad, or maybe a little bit lesser, I'm a little bit in the middle. It's like, okay, I don't want to judge it until I get to it. But if they're really, I mean, we just kind of had a funny example there. But if that's the case, it's like, no, you're not getting this role unless you're committing to the animated. The fact that it didn't seem like he's super like that is the case, it gives me a little bit of hope there that, you know, they'll make some proper decisions in that regard.
Yeah, and then the other thing was James Gunn just addressed the Lobo Aquaman stuff, says actor will not play more than one role, so that got spun up a lot by fans. Everything that seems like not be the case. And then and I guess I didn't mention with the Keaton stuff. I hope that what I hope happens is this movie comes out in summer and it fucking kills it, and one of these Elseworld projects is a Batman Beyond down the line. But also we have 2 Batmans, so a third would probably be too much. And I do predict, and I said this on Vodka Stream a couple weeks ago, that at one point, I know you guys probably remember, is Keaton was an Aquaman, and then when they were changing stuff with the old bosses, they put Affleck in. My prediction is Aquaman. They're going to edit both those Batman things out. I don't think you're going to see a single one. All I hope for is include them on the DVD. I know they'll be like not a part of the universe, but like, come on, let's see the deleted scenes. I'd like to see that.
They just put Robert's Batman in there now. Like, Robert, come here.
They call him, like, we need you, and then they cut him out for the new Batman. It's just like, that's your addition. It's like, do the scene with Jason, see how it goes.
They gotta do like a 60-minute special on that movie with all those Batman.
Bale's back. He has no idea what the
movie.
fuck he's doing. He's like, thought this was Thor 8. And finally, from Maddie, what are your 3 most anticipated projects, but not Elseworlds? Because he probably knew we'd probably go, the Batman Part 2 and Joker and stuff like that. So he said, not Elseworlds. Dylan Muss, will start with you. What are the 3 from this slate?
Okay, I'm gonna take Supergirl.
Okay.
I'll take Swamp Thing, and kind of this last slot kind of up for grabs. I think you convinced me, and also just the conversation that I will pick Batman as my number 3. The brave.
That's a brave choice.
The
And a bold
brave
one.
and the bold, with a honorable mention to Booster Gold. That is the TV show I'm most interested in. But I think if I only had to pick 3, I'd go with 3 movies.
Mm-hmm. Kirkland Patzer.
All right. This is tighter than I thought it was going to be. I think I'll take Booster Gold here.
Ooh.
Just because it's a role. It's a character I wasn't expecting to see at all. I think it'll be lots of fun. I'll have to take Batman here as well. Evil Robin. That sounds really exciting. And then might be surprising. I think I'm gonna have to slot in Creature Commandos here.
Yeah,
It's gonna start off
I
as the
love
meme
it,
pick,
yeah.
but yeah, the art
Someone's
style.
gonna stand it.
Yeah, exactly. The getting Weasel back too. That's super
Yeah.
exciting, and I hope it really hits because I think that could be one that, depending on how it goes, I could maybe rope Shay into watching that one with me. So.
There you go. All in the game, really. Look at that. Lanterns, Brave and the Bold, and Paradise Lost. There you go. I've not seen that on a lot of other people's lists. Superman Mike says Lanterns, The Authority. The Authority,
Big
Superman
Lantern
Mike.
love over here.
Yeah. And Superman Legacy. Well, I'll follow it up because Lanterns is on my list. Let's see. Supergirl will be on my list, and also number 1 with a bold, the Brave and the Bold. That's what I asked for. More Bat Family stuff, and I'm literally getting that. It's a different version of what I wanted, but still, I'll take it. If it was like this or nothing, absolutely. And I still like the story, so I'm excited. The other ones so I have Lanterns 3rd because I just want more Green Lantern stuff. If I knew the director swamp thing, that could maybe swift my way. And same thing with the Superman casting. If we get a great Superman casting, or even director, let's say it's not Gunn. And I love James Gunn. I just don't know if I need him to do Superman. I think there's just so many other directors that I think would pair better with it, but I think he's going to direct it. Same thing. If we got some actor I really like Jacob Elordi, I go, okay. But right now, for the information we have, Brave and the Bold, Supergirl, and Lanterns. So Taylor Field, your top 3 projects to end this. Well, I'll let S-Bubs go. Man the chair. Booster Gold, Brave and the Bold, and Lanterns for
Very list.
S-Bubs. Taylor Field.
Number 3 is going to be Brave and the Bold. Very excited to see that storyline. Number 2 is going to be Lanterns. And number 1 is going to be Swamp Thing. I just can't wait to get my eyes into that.
Your eyes into that. Well, this was a big one. This felt like a E3 Comic-Con
It
type of
did,
day
yeah.
where
It
we
really
just had to
did.
go through all this stuff. But it was fun. We got this, and you know what? I hope this all does well because it's funny. Like, we were there for BVS, we were there for MCU, but if this works, we've not been here for a cinematic start of a universe. Because the ones like Monster and stuff, they just crap out and die and everything. So I hope there's a time where, because there's so many times where it's like, man, I see reviewers like, oh, they were around for Iron Man 1. And they have videos just like, oh, like that'd be so cool in 5 years to look back. And if we love the DCU and be like, man, we were here at this point. Or we'll be in 3 years and James Gunn's fired and we're on to the next boss and here we go again. But no matter what happens, we will be here covering it. A big thank you to everybody that had joined us in the live chat, that joins us after. We really appreciate you, and we promise whatever's going to happen with this DCU slate, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
See ya.